Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Wise Guys. I'm joined once again by Kyle and Tony. How are you two on this lovely evening?
We're doing great. It's just a fun time. No more football, but we're gonna have fun.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure we will. What about you, Tony?
Thank you, Kyle, for speaking for both of us. We are doing okay. I am doing fine, and Andrew is doing well.
Yeah,
And Kyle's doing great over there.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well,
Whatever.
Okay.
So let's start off with all right. Super Bowl 56.
Ugh.
We're coming back from that. So before we talk about the game.
Okay.
Let's just quickly answer a question. How exactly did the Bengals make it to the Super Bowl? Because we're all confused. And further, we want to know, has a team made us ponder that question more in the last, 20 years?
and even the matchup, you can say. I mean, this is maybe one of the weakest matchups we've ever had. I mean, I don't think...
the game in general, it wasn't necessarily the worst game, but when you look back, you just think, how?
It was a close game, but was it a good game? I don't know.
It's not really representative of the best talent of the 2020s.
Exactly. Not even the best coaching. And I have several reservations. I mean, Sean McVay is a Super Bowl winning coach, so let's give props to the Rams for what they did.
Sure.
But, there were several times where I was questioning Sean McVay throughout the playoffs, throughout the Super Bowl, the regular season. I don't know if his mind is somewhere else.
Hey,
we can talk about that later.
Zach Taylor didn't win a Super Bowl.
But at least Zach Taylor, who's the 32nd best coach in the NFL, didn't win the Super Bowl. So I don't know.
You're happy about something.
I'm happy about something, and I picked the Bengals, but whatever. I deserved it because I just hedged my bet, basically.
It's okay. And here's the thing. On one hand, I'm happy the Rams won because not only did I predict that they'd win, I predicted the score, and I love knowing that I'm right. It inflates my ego even more. But here's my thing, and it's a question we talked about at the top of the show. Have we ever had a team that was more undeserving to be there? And I was thinking about the game itself, and I was trying to think, what Super Bowl does this remind me of? And the Super Bowl this reminds me of more than any other is the Super Bowl that concluded the 2005 season between the wild-card Pittsburgh Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks. And for any major football fan, that game is best remembered not by Jerome Bettis' last game, not by any trick play that was executed. No, it was remembered for terrible officiating. And that's what I think this Super Bowl is going to be remembered. Now, do I think the Super Bowl officiating changed the outcome? No. I think the Rams would have won either way. And my argument is that you had terrible calls go against both teams. And so in that sense, maybe it's not perfect, but I almost negate it because I think that the Rams weren't favoring one team or the other. You had garbage calls on both sides. But I'm looking at this of when I look back, what am I going to remember that Super Bowl for? I'm going to remember Jalen Ramsey ripping the face mask off of T. Higgins. I'm going to remember what was blatantly good defense be called as a penalty for no reason. Those are things that are going to stand out to me, along with a number of very stupid coaching decisions by Zach Taylor. But all in all, that's not what you want to remember a Super Bowl for. And I think that when a Super Bowl is being defined by its officiating, you come back to the team. When you think back to a Super Bowl, you think of 28-3. Sure, you can laugh at the Falcons, but you think, wow, what a great Patriots team. When you saw Kansas City come back from 10 to take on San Francisco, you thought, wow, Mahomes is coming into something here. You remember the team. You remember what the team did. You remember the officiating, the team was not all that significant.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here wondering how we got that matchup still. And, not only how did we get that team in the Super Bowl, the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl, but how did we get that matchup? Because I really felt like the Rams were not a very strong team. And before the season, if you asked me who was going to be in the Super Bowl and someone said the Rams, I wouldn't have said, oh, that's ridiculous. But before the playoffs started, the Rams were maybe like fourth on my list as for teams to come out of the NFC. There was no way in my mind that the Rams were going to lose or that the Rams were going to beat the 49ers and the Buccaneers and
Cardinals.
The Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals, even the Cardinals game, it was like, okay, I'm going to pick the Rams here, but I wouldn't be very shocked if the Cardinals won.
Yeah.
Really. All those games were just and the Rams really never demonstrated that they could play a 60-minute football game. Not once the entire season. Not in the Super Bowl. And it was just a wild, crazy matchup that two teams that really didn't deserve to have it.
I think it's interesting because we talked about before the Super Bowl that this might have been the most entertaining playoffs that we've had in recent memory, because a divisional week, there was games, every game came down to the wire. Conference championship week, it was even crazier. I mean, looking back, maybe the best game of the year was probably the Buffalo Chiefs game, and that was a divisional game. Just to think, like, that's probably the best game of the year. That's probably the game that might be considered the Super Bowl if we're talking about the two best teams duking it out and kind of really proving, like, this is what peak football is right here in 2022. So maybe that's kind of our gift for having such a great postseason, was kind of a Super Bowl that didn't really fit. But when you think back, I think when you look at, once we go through here, if you look back and say, okay, what was the postseason like? There's going to be blowouts. There's going to be bad games. And there wasn't really a bad game in the playoffs this year. And I think that's kind of part of why we ended up with this kind of weird matchup, because it was just who's going to steal the game this week. And obviously, since he found a way to do that a lot with McPherson, and the Rams basically just held on. But I think that's part of it, is the playoffs was so good as a whole that the Super Bowl just might not be as great as we expected it.
Well, I think that's the other piece of it. Now, it's a little different, but I think another element is, especially when you're working in a team, inevitably, it's only as strong as the weakest link.
Right.
And eventually, especially if you're doing a group project, every member of that team is going to be asked to present at some point. And it's going to be showcased very clearly. This is a great member of the team. This is the guy who put in everything, or, okay, this is the guy being carried. And both these teams seem like, all right, if we're talking about these teams, so to speak, let's talk about everyone in the NFC playoffs. Let's talk about everyone in the AFC playoffs as your quote-unquote teams in this scenario. And the Rams and the Bengals were the weakest links. By putting on the Super Bowl, you showcased those weak members of, okay, when we say this was the greatest playoffs, we were really talking about everyone else. You guys just happened to be there.
Yeah, and it just blows your mind, right? So, I mean, let's just go through it.
Sure.
I want to hit each Super Bowl matchup. Let's just go back as far back as we can go before we hit something that's even a question as to how the hell did these two teams get here.
There has to be both teams or just one?
Well, either one, I guess.
All right.
I mean, at least one team, but we could argue both.
Okay.
If needed.
We'll go back quickly. All right. Let's see what we can get.
So Rams, Cincinnati, we just talked about.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, Kansas City, I think we both agree.
Those are two.
We all agree.
Two good teams.
Two good teams. Kansas City, San Francisco, that was two good teams, right?
I would say 19's easy.
18 was New England versus the Rams, I think.
Yeah, I was about to say New England was questionable.
Yeah.
But I'd move past that.
But no one was saying how the hell did this team get in,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's not even close to
at the end of the by the time that game was played, those Rams were not good.
That's true.
The Rams,
and we knew it. A lot of people knew it.
Yeah.
And even with the Patriots, everyone was kind of saying, this team is ugly. I don't like watching this team, but this team will win games.
I mean, Goff got figured out in those playoffs, for sure.
Yeah.
He was pretty much, it was well known that he's not going to win the Super Bowl for them.
Yeah.
I don't think they're worse than the Bengals, though.
Yeah, no,
So-
I don't think that's fair.
Then you had New England, Philadelphia, which I think that's reasonable. New England was a really good
Philly
team.
had that
Philly had the
narrative
Foles
of how
thing.
did you make it here?
Yeah, but at least they had a really solid team. They were good
Yeah.
all year, and they had what everyone thought was a really good coach.
Right.
And you had a system that.
That's I can't
And you
laugh
give
at
up
them
500
for all that
yards
much.
to a
Yeah,
backup QB.
I mean it's
so.
not on the level of the Bengals once again.
Yes.
So-
And our offensive line coach gave up 500 yards to a backup QB.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, that's fair. And yes, he's now. Don't get me started. He's now the offensive line coach. I mean,
We'll get to Patriots stuff at some point.
the following year, you had the Patriots at the Falcons, and yes, we can laugh at the Falcons. You did have an MVP. You did deserve to be.
I mean,
there.
that offense was ridiculous. That defense was extremely talented at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were a really, really high talented team.
So okay,
Now I brought this one up before the show. Denver, Carolina. Denver being a weak link at the quarterback position, but they still had Peyton Manning. It's not like this came out of nowhere.
No, it's Peyton
the
Manning's
defense.
last dance, but also that defense was outstanding.
Yeah.
Von Miller keeps leaving out, everything like that. That team deserved to be there. When you knock out Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger in the playoffs, all right, you've earned something here.
Yeah.
I think in the moment that Carolina team felt strong, but looking back, I feel like they weren't
Well, that's a reasonable argument to make, I think. But I would say, them being 15 and
3
1.
weapons on the team.
Kelvin Benjamin was out. That was their best weapon.
Right.
So
Funches.
Yeah, Devin
Right.
Funches.
It's Funches
And Greg
Stewart.
Olsen.
And Cam Newton.
Cam
Pretty
Newton.
much.
There you go.
It was the Panthers in an odd year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that too.
There you go. So then you had New England, Seattle the year before that. That was the 2014
It's
season.
one of the best Super Bowls ever.
Yeah, so there you go. That's a great Super Bowl. Seattle, Denver. That was that legendary Denver offense with Seattle, who kind of, they kind of shot out of nowhere a little bit with Wilson.
But they were dominant for a number of years, though. I think that
and that defense.
Yeah,
and their defense was unbelievable. So there you go. Baltimore, San Francisco with Kaepernick versus Flacco.
Well,
I mean, that one was still pretty.
It was exciting.
Reasonably.
It was an exciting game, but I think you could argue, especially with San Francisco, Baltimore. You had Ray Lewis, you had Ed Reed, you had Harbaugh, you had a number. They were going to make it to a Super Bowl at some point. The weak link was Flacco, and he would go on to prove that. But you knew they were going to get in at some point. I think the big issue with San Francisco was, okay, you put in a new quarterback midway through the season, and he's very good at running. The game plan has always been to make him throw, and usually he'll give you a couple chances to win if you do that. But he wasn't horrible at that point. He quickly, disintegrated as the years went on. But that was a team that kind of came out of nowhere. Yes, you'd lost the championship game the year before, but even the year before, everyone's going, San Francisco, how did you get here?
Yeah.
So I think that's the closest thing that we've seen so far.
So far, yeah.
So far, I'd go there.
All right, so here's a good opportunity here. The Giants in the 2011 season facing off against the Patriots.
Yeah, I believe I might be wrong in this step. If I'm not, it's pretty close. The Giants were 9-7, number one. They barely won their own division. Had to do it in the last game of the season against Romo choking it away, which he perpetually did when he was leading the Cowboys. Now, on top of that, when they did make it to the Super Bowl, they played arguably the worst defense to ever make it to a Super Bowl in the 2011 Patriots. So you watched, and it was a good game. It was a compelling game, and I did enjoy watching other than the outcome. That being said, there was a level of, okay, the Giants, we know you don't really deserve to be here, but in watching that game, they had a firm command over the Patriots the entire time. It was, Patriots, you were 13-3. What are you doing?
I mean, unfortunately, I think for that game was you looked at the Giants, and even at the end of that year, you said, we've seen them do it before.
Yeah.
We know that they can have this terrible thing, this terrible season, and Eli's, for some reason, the playoffs turn on and he can throw football occasionally.
Yeah, exactly.
So we knew it. That's the thing.
That's true. It wasn't as much of a shock. I think you could say, and I know I'm skipping a few years, but I think you could say 2007 was a major shock with those Giants, even though they technically had a better record. If you take Eli's 2007 season, take out Week 1 and Week 17, which were his two best games of the season. I believe he threw more interceptions than touchdowns that season.
Nice.
One game in particular, he broke a record for the most incompletions in a game. It was a horrible year for Eli.
That's Eli.
And then you went against the imperfect Patriots, and it's, how did you get here? Now, again, you had the Patriots who had almost the perfect season.
Right. So the matchup, no.
Yeah, I would say the
team,
matchup,
maybe.
no. The Patriots, we all knew you're going to get here. But Giants, I think that was the biggest shock we've seen, especially when they ended up winning.
When you look at teams who have, I was just going to say, when you look at teams who have quarterbacks like Carr, for example, and you wonder why they're sticking with these guys for so long, the answer is that Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls, and one of them was against the undefeated Patriots.
Yeah.
Eli Manning
You never know if they're
was
in
not
that
even a
spot,
good quarterback. He was not even a good quarterback. He was a top 20 quarterback.
I mean, that's the thing is, like, think about this. If Jimmy makes 2 throws or something, he's a Super Bowl winner. And he's probably a better day-to-day quarterback than Eli, but because he can't make those 2 throws, he's not. So you right.
He's still got more rings than any active quarterback right now.
Yeah, but that's true.
He does.
But Derek Carr, you just don't know. He's never been in the situation to make those 2 throws.
Yep.
That's why.
Yeah.
But let's go to 2010. Was that
yeah.
Steelers,
Packers?
Did we skip one? Oh no, yeah, you're right. Steelers, Packers. Yeah.
No,
so
that
one was
two
pretty
good teams.
Yeah, 2 good teams, right?
And then before
then
that,
you had
Saints, Colts.
Saints, Colts, the 2 good teams, right? 2
number
good
1 seeds,
quarterbacks.
yeah.
2 number 1 seeds. All right, Pittsburgh, Arizona the year before that.
Okay, let's start here.
That's a good one.
Let me ask you this, Kyle.
Yeah.
Take that Super Bowl out of it. Tell me one other Super Bowl. Give me one other conference championship that the Arizona Cardinals have made it to.
I don't think I know one.
They made it to 20 when they played the Panthers in 2015.
You're right. That's one. Give me another one.
I don't know.
Did Kurt Warner get to one before
With the Rams?
No. I thought that he had gotten to one with.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Was he hurt the year before or something like that? I know they didn't come out of nowhere.
No, they kind of did. They had Kurt Warner, but Kurt Warner was basically delegated to being a backup at that point.
Right.
They put him in, and as a fluke, it was, wow, you did it.
Again.
I believe they were the St. Louis Cardinals at the time, Tony, when look at the game you're looking up right now.
Yeah. Okay, it's I'm doing the research.
You're doing the research for me? Thank you. But no, the Cardinals, I think, came out of nowhere. They had to knock out teams like Andy Reid's Eagles to get to the Super Bowl in the first place. I believe they also played the Panthers that year, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Which, either way, the Panthers were in the Super Bowl a few years earlier. They were in a conference championship game a few years earlier. The Eagles, same story. Those were teams you had heard of in the 2000s. No one gave the Cardinals a chance.
Right. So that's a good one.
And you have to realize, with that game against the Steelers, they were getting clobbered the entire time. You had one big play at the end. But beyond one big play at the end to put you back in the game in the first place, you were getting demolished the whole time. There was a team that didn't deserve to be there. You got there because Andy Reid can't manage a clock in the playoffs. He choked away the championship game. Well, I wonder where I've seen this story before.
But and Kurt Warner knew where Larry Fitzgerald was.
Yes, and they just didn't cover him. But beyond that, the Cardinals didn't deserve to be there. I think that's the closest thing we've seen so far to this year's Bengals.
All right. I like that one. We talked about the Giants in 2007.
Oh, now we got a good one. Now we got. You're right. The next one's a good candidate.
And the next one is Indianapolis, Chicago. Speaking of Lovie Smith.
Can you tell me, speaking of quarterbacks, can you tell me who the quarterback was for that team?
Was it Rex?
It was. I was about to say, you two have a similar body build, Rex Grossman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have about the same cares towards playing the quarterback position as well.
This isn't Jay Cutler.
Oh, sorry.
Wrong Chicago quarterback now. But no, Rex Grossman was horrible. He was absolutely terrible. I mean, he may have been built to play linebacker. He was Tebow before Tebow in terms of his style of quarterback play, his arm accuracy, all those things. That was a team where I think they were the diet version, the poor man's version of the 2015 Broncos. Very good defense. I'm not going to say legendary defense, but very good defense, and a quarterback that was horrible. The defense that year took pride in how horrible the offense was, and their pride was, we won these games despite you being garbage.
Imagine if the Bears had learned anything in the last 50 years.
That would be fascinating, wouldn't it?
Because they just build their teams the same way.
It's true.
It's awful. Pittsburgh and Seattle. Andrew, you mentioned this.
I did.
Before. This is the 2005 season.
Both teams were horrible.
Yeah. Pittsburgh wins it 21-10. The year before that, we have Philadelphia, New England.
Two legendary teams at the time.
Yep. And then you have New England, Carolina.
Two good teams at the time. Carolina was a bit of an upstart, but they lasted for about 5 years after that. Right. So it's not all that shocking.
Tampa Bay destroying Oakland.
Ooh.
That one's not all that unexpected. The Oakland had been a powerhouse. Gruden built them into a powerhouse at that point. Tony Dungy had built Tampa to be a powerhouse. It's just that he couldn't win. That's why they kicked him out and they put Gruden in. Mm-hmm. And they both Oakland did not last very long after that Super Bowl loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Oakland team might deserve some talk because...
They might, but my point was they were successful a number of years prior, so it wasn't the most shocking, oh, wow, I'm so shocked you guys got here. Plus, Rich Gannon was MVP that season, if I'm not mistaken.
That's fair. It's just the coaching.
Yeah, no, the coaching is completely fair.
It might be one of the worst coaches we've seen in a Super Bowl.
I think the next one is something we talked about before. Obviously, New England with St. Louis in New England's first Super Bowl with Brady. Kind of a shocking team.
Let me ask you a question, Tony.
Yeah.
In their entire playoff run, I want you to tell me how many offensive touchdowns the New England Patriots scored.
Oh, that's a good question.
You were 4.
Yeah, I was 4, so I remember this.
That's why I asked you.
I don't know. I'm gonna say 4.
4. Kyle, would you like to help him out?
2.
You're both wrong. It's 3.
Ah.
Tom Brady was responsible for 2.
Oh, okay.
Bledsoe took over from one game. So they averaged 1 offensive touchdown per playoff game.
Nice.
And they won. So I think that's a team right there of how did you get here?
Yeah. Well, they had the call. I mean the snow
true.
game.
They did.
The roughing.
Yeah. No, that might be honestly might be one of the closest ones because
I think
it really is. How did you get here?
Yeah.
And kind of like what we said with the Giants in 2011, it's like, okay, we know this now. We know the story. So all the other Patriots Super Bowls, like, oh, we know this story now. But 0-1, the flukiness of snow game, even the whole Bledsoe coming in and Brady thing that just wasn't quite.
What type of game, especially a championship game, what game do you have 2 special teams touchdowns?
Right.
And that's what happened in that conference championship game where
so
Brady got
that
injured.
might actually be it.
Maybe that's it.
I think that
maybe we stop here.
I think that's a good idea. We can stop there.
I just think it was worth making the point because this Cincinnati team was just so weird, and we talked about all their weird games and the weird experience that it was watching each one, and the opposite team just continually screwing up. You've got obviously we talked about the Raider game and the coaching mishaps there with Bisaccia and company. You've got the weird Tennessee game where Tannehill just randomly throws 3 interceptions. Really,
are we really all that? Are we all that surprised that Ryan Tannehill turned back into Ryan Tannehill? And
yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Why?
I mean, 3 interceptions. That hardly ever happens. They were the number 1 seed. They were the number 1 seed without Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry comes back and he's nothing. Should have left him on the curb and should have played Hilliard.
Comes in and goes crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And so I mean, just a really awfully weird coaching job by Vrabel and just a really weird game by Tannehill. I feel like uncharacteristic of the Titans. They lose that game. I mean, Tannehill, they're 15 yards away from winning the game, and Tannehill throws a pick.
Good thing Rodgers got a house in Nashville.
Yeah, Rodgers. Well, it's tax free. He knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, Rodgers. Jeez.
I don't even want to talk.
We cannot talk about Rodgers.
We have to save a week or 2 before we get to Aaron Rodgers.
I agree. I just thought that was a really uncharacteristically weird game by the Titans. And then you go, of course, the same applies to the Chiefs with the next week with the Bengals. Mahomes is on a tear. They're 21-3, and all of a sudden it's just ghost town in the second half from the best quarterback in the game. Just
right, and
totally
the Cincinnati Bengals shut down Patrick Mahomes for a half.
And who led that secondary?
Eli Apple.
Eli Apple. And
he actually had a good game.
No, he did. He played well against Mahomes is the problem.
So, really weird run. And then Cincinnati ends up, 3 points up or whatever it was, 4 points up in the fourth quarter and 2 minutes to go. And all of a sudden, I'm nervous because Zach Taylor is 2 minutes from winning the Super Bowl. And
that would make me nervous too.
Yeah, I would have had to. I think I made some kind of a bet, right?
We all made some sort of bet.
Oh, we did. But
I think I had some kind of a something.
Here's my thing. And here's where my biggest coaching thing is, right? Sean McVay turned into Andy Reid. And when I say that, all the play calls were notoriously stubborn. Every play call was, I'm going to get the ball to Cooper Kupp and I'm going to throw it to him every single time. Stupid, stupid decision. 9 times out of 10, you're going to cost yourself the game. Now, maybe it was some sort of psychology dance that I'm unaware of. Maybe I didn't read into it. Maybe I'm going to up the scale. 99 times out of 100, if you say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it every single play, and I'll tell you before the snap I'm going to do it, you're probably going to lose. But this was the 1 in 100 chance because you were against Zach Taylor, who's a blithering idiot. And he said, even if you do that, I'm not going to cover Cooper Kupp. No matter what, I had this great plan. I've been double teaming Aaron Donald all game long, and it's working. I've been double teaming Cooper Kupp all game long, and it's working. Now it's the fourth quarter, game on the line. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to single cover Aaron Donald. I'm going to single cover Cooper Kupp. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is stupid calling by Sean McVay, and you're being even dumber by catering to it, making it easier for him.
McVay looked so nervous, and he just didn't want to screw it up, right?
Zach was just smarter than him. Except he actually wasn't. But
He was for 3 quarters.
It's just
it's the crazy part.
It's just so weird because I felt like every time the Bengals played any team in the playoffs, that the other team would just have a strange meltdown.
Just
forget
how
to play
there.
football. Just forget completely. It was just baffling. And the Rams, I mean, I have more criticisms about the Rams than I do about the Bengals. Twice in the game, they snap it before the 2-minute warning when they don't need to.
Yeah.
I mean, the Stafford thing, when they go down there and score, my first priority is, okay, we need to score the touchdown. I'm talking about the fourth quarter.
No, that makes sense.
We need to score the touchdown. Yes, I need the 6 points. I need the 7 points, whatever. But if I can take as much time away as possible from Joe Burrow, I'm going to do it. So they have a play at like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The clock is running. And Stafford just snaps it with 2:07 to go. And it's like, what are you doing? You didn't have to run a play there. And it's like people will say, well, maybe they saw something they liked. And, it's like, I don't care. Pick another play against a different look and then use that one later. That doesn't matter. You have to run the clock here. That should be, I mean, yes, the priority, get 6 points. But the point is, you can't just sit here with your play sheet and be like, yeah, well, we'll just call this one. I mean, that was like me playing Madden. And I forgot what time it was. That was just horrible clock management. And then they score. Of course, there's 1:36 left. Yeah. And then the Bengals get the ball back, and they're at midfield. And if not for the dumbest play call ever by Zach Taylor, giving it to P. Ryan on 3rd down and 1. And then that awful call where they just don't protect, and Burrow gets killed.
And here's the
on
thing.
4th and 1. And it's just, the Bengals were, if not for their stupid lack of preparation, then they're the champions.
Well, and here's the other thing I'm going to point out. If you're the Rams, they won, so it'll kind of go away. Jalen Ramsey was getting cooked all day long.
Yeah.
He was getting killed out there. And there's a level of, okay, I get it. Ramsey's got a lot of pride. I don't care. This is the Super Bowl. You are losing on every single play. Go get double teamed. It's really that, it was Jamar, right?
Yeah.
If Jamar Chase is going to roast you that much, you're getting double teamed in the last 2 minutes. And the other thing that we don't mention...
Higgins got him for the big one, too.
Higgins got him. And the other piece of it, yes, Burrow got sacked. Yes, they don't know what an offensive line is. Yes, it's tissue paper thin, and the 3 of us might be a better offensive line than what he had. That being said, if you look at that final play, Ramsey's on the ground. Chase had him beat with the arm up, open for a touchdown. If he had 2 seconds... It's almost as if you draft Penei Sewell, then you have a chance.
Well, then Jamar Chase would be open.
It's okay. You have Higgins to beat him.
Yeah. Penei Sewell couldn't kick that ball.
I was a big proponent of the Sewell thing, but I don't think we can say it anymore.
No, I mean, Chase played very well. But my point is, if you just do something.
Yeah.
You got lucky. If the Bengals just do something right.
That's the amazing part is we just went through 20 years and we couldn't find a team that we felt was worse than them. And yet they were millimeters away from winning a Super Bowl.
I mean, if we did the same exercise for the Rams, there wouldn't be many teams really much worse than them either, I don't think. I mean, this is a baffling Super Bowl.
No, it is.
Just took place.
It's a weird
baffling.
game. But the one thing I will say is a lot of people blame, the Rams won because of the officiating. I'm going to come out and say, no, the Rams were the better team.
Yes, agreed.
They were the better team. They deserved to win. There were fluky circumstances in which they won that game, but they were the better team.
Yeah.
Especially, and I said it before, you had fluky calls go against both sides. So there's a level of, and especially people are going to flag, oh no, there was pass interference in the last 2 minutes. Weren't there 2 or 3 pass interference calls in a row in the end zone? Pretty much all of them on Eli Apple.
Yes.
You are going to get called for interference anyway. So what difference does it make? At least in my opinion.
That's fair.
Who was the best team in the NFL this season?
Best team in the NFL?
I have my answer.
That's a hard question.
I think I know your answer.
I definitely know
Well,
Tony's. I know Tony's answer. That's easy.
You don't know.
It's tempting to say Buffalo. It really is. The problem is I don't know that I can say you're the best team in the NFL when you find a way to lose to Jacksonville. That's
bad.
That's a huge blemish.
I mean, we can go back. There's a lot of Super Bowl champions and a lot of best team in the NFLs that have lost
to the worst team in the league.
Dude, The Bengals lost to the Jets and Mike White. I mean, they were in the Super Bowl.
First time a quarterback comes on, you never know how to prepare for them. It's true.
That's why they always play
Drew
very
Lock,
well in the
Drew
first
Lock
game.
went off in his first game.
Yeah.
That was his only game.
Yeah, no, it's true though. So, but when the best team in the league loses to the worst team in the league, what that kind of shows me is, were you really the best team? How often does that happen where the Super Bowl champion loses to the worst team in the league?
I think it's. We should do some research on this,
We'll
but
look into
I
it,
think.
My point is, in my opinion, I can't call you the best team when you lose to Jacksonville.
Well, the Rams a couple years ago, if you'll remember, lost, I believe, to the winless Jets at home.
And did we
a couple years ago?
And did we call them the best team in the league?
I think they were one of the best teams in the league. They were definitely a top 3 team in the league.
Well, it was before we realized Jared Goff was bad.
For a little bit of context, that top 3 team of yours couldn't make the conference championship game.
Was it that same year? Are we sure?
It was the same year. I will bet any amount of money.
So that was Kansas City, San Francisco. Was that year?
That's correct.
And so what happened in the playoffs that year? They lost to.
To Green Bay.
Oh.
And then.
Are you sure that was that same year? No, that was last year.
Last year they lost to Green Bay. Didn't they lose 2 years in a row?
They lost to Green Bay last year.
Because what was the team that jumped on Wentz's head in the playoff game?
Seattle.
Oh, that's right. Seattle lost to Green Bay. Oh, that's right. The Rams didn't make the playoffs at all.
The year they lost to the Jets? No, they definitely made the playoffs that year. They were a really good team.
I'm mixing up 19 and 20.
I think you're mixing up 19 and.
Oh, that's right. 20. No, because it was 20.
No, you're mixing up 19 and 20.
Okay, so I was right the first time. That same team couldn't even make the conference championship game. They did lose to the Green Bay Packers. I just mixed up my years.
Yeah, so 2020 they lost to the Packers. 2019 they didn't make
Yeah, so in principle
playoffs.
I was right.
Okay.
I just mixed up the years.
Okay.
Well, good. I'm glad you didn't take me up. I would have lost.
All right. I mean, this stuff happens is all I'm trying to say. So if Buffalo's not the best team, then who is?
I'd say the best team because I think that they struggled. I'm looking at it, and maybe I'm stuck in last year. I think if those two teams didn't get completely derailed by the end, one of which by questionable decisions by the teammates and injuries, the other one by their head coach, I would say the same two teams that were in the Super Bowl last year, Kansas City and Tampa Bay. Kansas City was an outstanding team at the end of the year. Andy Reid just turned back into Andy Reid and did what he does best and chokes away conference championship games. I think Tampa Bay would have won the Super Bowl again if Antonio Brown is sane for another 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I think they win the Super Bowl again. And to be fair, Tampa also had a lot of injuries.
I think you have to, this is a good question. It's a good thought process because the body of work, you probably say Buffalo. But if you talk about hypothetical, KC, Tampa, I might even want to say a team like San Fran. I know Jimmy.
Yeah, I know
That's
Jimmy's bad, but everything else is so
But
good.
when they were healthy and when they were going, they're top 4.
Yeah, at least.
So I think that's part of it is you have to figure out what are you looking for. Buffalo is probably the team if you're saying what did they actually do, what did they prove,
I put them top
what did they
5.
show.
Top 5, no question. But I can't put them at number 1 when you lose to Jacksonville. That's 3 strikes, you're out.
So that's a good question.
Is Tennessee in the mix on this question?
I'd say they're in the top quarter.
If they didn't lose to Cincinnati, that's the problem. You lost to Cincinnati.
I know.
I don't even care when you lost to Cincinnati.
If it was week 2,
you lost to Cincinnati.
You lost to Cincinnati.
But they were another team that when you look at the body of work for this year, they did a lot with a little, and that's impressive.
I do expect them to be a fierce competitor next year, but part of that's also because you still have Jacksonville, you still have Houston,
right.
And the Colts are going to continue to be a disaster until they can get a real quarterback.
We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Green Bay in this conversation. I just wanted to say because we haven't yet.
Yeah, no, we haven't.
But they have to be in
regular
the mix
season,
here.
sure.
I mean, they're.
We all knew it though.
Yeah.
There wasn't
knew.
a soul that was that. I mean, okay, maybe Packer fans, but there wasn't a soul that really felt confident in the Packers going to the Super Bowl.
At least
but whose fault is that? It's Matt LaFleur, right? I mean, it has to be the coaching. I mean, 2 years in a row, LaFleur has fired coordinators because of horrible mishaps.
Last year,
last
year I would agree with you. Last year's LaFleur. This year, I'm blaming the league MVP that can't put up more than 10 points.
I get it. San Fran defense was great this year, and they were in a really good spot when they met each other. but you can't be the league MVP and not put up 10 points.
Yeah, so you got to do a little bit better than that. But
I agree.
Even still, they're a respectable team. I think things will change for next year. So let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about the futures for both the Rams and the Bengals after the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And we talked a little bit about this in a previous week, but let's address this as what should they do? What should they learn? What should they change to improve them? And what do we actually expect them to do? Kyle, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
So what I like to do when we talk about this is who's leaving and what should they look to fill and what should they look to let go. So the Rams, it's been relatively well documented who's leaving. So right away, guys who are free agents this year, Von Miller, Sony Michel, Odell Beckham. You can see Joe Noteboom, who played a big role coming down the stretch. Matt Gay. After that, it's not so much. So there's honestly, for a team that's built in that way, it's not insane. Although you have to add in Whitworth probably being gone. And
Weddle's gone too.
Weddle is gone as well.
Yeah.
So I think, what you take away from the Super Bowl is A, the defense needs to get better, and B, you either have to find a replacement for OBJ or, hope Robert Woods is healthy again. But you need that second guy. It's so important because as soon as OBJ tore his ACL, the Rams were going to win that game easy. At least it looked like it.
Yeah.
And then until OBJ tore that ACL.
They were going to win that game 43-7.
Although,
that was going to be a blowout.
Yeah, that's kind of what. Unfortunately, not that I predicted an injury, but I was thinking you take the under. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't necessarily because I thought that the teams wouldn't be capable, but I thought there was going to be what we talked about is these teams go up against the Bengals and suddenly they just forget how to play. But yeah, so I think those are the two things is the secondary, you need to address it because Weddle's gone and he was a Band-Aid that was covering up a patch.
Yeah.
So that's a big time thing. And then figuring out that wide receiver position. If it's Robert Woods and you feel confident in his health coming back, then maybe that can work. But
what happens to Beckham? He's 29. Yeah. He's tore his ACL. He's probably not coming. Last time he tore his ACL, it was an 11-month path to get back on the field. And they said, we're holding him out just to be safe or whatever. But he didn't get back on the field until 11 months after he tore his ACL. Now he tears the same ACL.
Against the same team.
And, true.
Well,
he's 2 years older. So, what happens?
And
he's probably not coming back.
Here's the thing to note, and people don't talk about this because they don't necessarily think about it. But right now he's a free agent. That means he doesn't have a training staff working with him every day. There's a reason Cam Akers could come back in 6 months, and it's because he had millions of dollars worth of guys working on him every day for 7 months. To recover for an injury that can take a year and a half. But right now, OBJ is at home with his newborn and there's no trainer calling him. There's no physical therapist calling him. There's none of that happening. So who's to say he's going to come back as quick, especially if it's the same knee? He might take extra time. So what does that mean? Does that mean a team's even going to sign him for this year? Is he going to sit at home for a year? I don't know. It's a good question.
I think the biggest thing with Beckham is I think that it's in both his interest and the Rams' interest to re-sign. I think you get him on a cheap deal, especially now that he's injured. It's unfortunate, but he's going to be a cheaper agent. Not as many people are going to be going after him. So get him for a cheap deal. Keep him under the radar. And then, realistically, what position gets injured more than any other? It's running back and receiver. You're going to have a receiver go down next year. And inevitably, when that receiver goes down, you have Beckham at the end of the year, hopefully, to come back. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But it's a gamble worth taking, especially since he's already come out and said, I'm willing to take a discount with the Rams. So if you can make it work, I say go for it. My only question is, how old is Odell Beckham?
He's 29.
All right, that's not so bad. The problem that I have is 2 ACL tears with the same leg.
Yeah. Well, he was in a prove-it situation this year, and he was about to get paid to wherever he went, whether the Rams or elsewhere. And so now he's going to be in a prove-it situation after he comes back from the ACL. So
I mean, it might almost be a blessing in disguise because he might have ended up having a team like the Giants or the Jets throw a Golden Tate offer at him, and then suddenly he's rotting on a team, getting $30 million more than he should. I mean, yeah, I know, but money. I also think it's interesting to see what Chris Godwin gets because it's kind of similar. Godwin probably will come back for some point of the season because he got hurt. It looks like he had surgery in January.
Yep.
And he's 26. So I'm curious to see the difference between what happens with OBJ and Godwin.
Didn't he also have the same injury on the same leg, Chris Godwin?
I don't think he's heard it before, but I can look it up.
I thought he did in college.
Oh, maybe.
But
did Godwin tear his ACL?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
It was the disaster game against New Orleans.
Ah. Even better for the Buccaneers. Kyle exactly. Trask, let's go.
So you better, if you're the Buccaneers, and I know it isn't one of the Super Bowl teams, but if you're Buccaneers, you better be giving up everything in your power to get Russell Wilson. You can't get Russell Wilson or someone along those lines. There's been a number of rumors with Deshaun Watson, but don't do that. I'm just going to leave it here. Don't do that. There's a number of other things with Watson that I don't know that bringing him into your building's a good move.
It makes him hard to root for at the very least. I mean,
if you're putting it very kindly, putting it very
I'm
kindly.
Putting it very kindly, I am.
Don't do this.
Well,
go get Russell Wilson. Go get Aaron Rodgers. Pay the price. You've got everything else there. You just need to be in a position where you can win and win now.
They need to do it before free agency because they're losing some guys.
Yeah. They do.
Anyway, we're off on another
tangent. But is there? So we talked about. Is there?
Wait, hold on. Before we move off the Bucks,
yeah.
Jameis Winston is a reasonable target for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's all I will say, and I will not accept responses.
Good. I'm not even going to respond to that. Coming back to the Rams and Bengals, we talked a little bit about the Rams' future. Is there anything else we want to add, or should we talk about the Bengals?
Yeah, absolutely. What the hell? We haven't addressed the elephant in the room, Andrew. Sean McVay is retiring.
Good, please.
Sean McVay is. We just heard about Aikman. Next is going to be McVay and Al Michaels on Thursday night on Amazon. And then McVay is going to come back to coaching in 5 years to coach the Patriots when Belichick retires. All right? Listen, I'm just telling you what it is. I am not involved
here. Are you going to tell me that Fantasyland is a wonderful place, too?
Yes, it is. It is a wonderful place.
I mean, he was just offered double his salary to
What are the odds? What are the odds? Kyle, percentage that Sean McVay is the coach of the Rams next season?
90.
Okay.
99. He's gonna, if anything, he's gonna go into Kroenke's office. Go, hey Kroenke, remember how you literally couldn't do anything for the last 20 years?
Remember Jeff Fisher?
Remember Jeff Fisher? You want that? Oh, good. You're gonna match this, and you're gonna match it right now.
So but is all this a bargaining tactic by McVay, or is some of it legitimate? Is some of it legitimate?
I'm sure it is legitimate, but he's going to use that legitimacy for a contract negotiation.
I mean, but the thing is, there's a number out there that he would.
There's a number.
I mean, maybe it's not double what he makes coaching. Maybe it's got to be, I don't know, 40, which is insane. But somebody might pay it. So there's a number out there that he would accept.
There has to be some unspoken agreement among the owners that says, please, please, please don't pay a coach $20 million a year, please.
Yeah.
Please, because that's the only. I mean, coaching is probably the most important position, and there's no salary cap. I mean, think about what a bad coach, what going from a bad coach to a good coach can do for your team.
And football coaches are the most important coaches in the four major sports.
Well, and here's the other
100%
piece.
agree. Yeah.
With Gruden, when he signed that deal, you knew that was a giant, ridiculous deal with everything he wanted.
Still only $10 million a year.
That's the point. That was everything he wanted. He was only getting 10.
What was the Matt Rule contract?
I don't know.
I think it was less than 10.
Probably was. But my point is, most of those are usually not disclosed. How much does Bill Belichick make?
25.
We don't know.
I'm pretty sure he pays himself 25.
Probably, exactly. He pays himself. You don't know. That's a random guess.
Well, Belichick is kind of an exception because he's also the GM, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is, very few of these coaches do you actually know their salaries.
Yeah.
And so if McVay, when you have someone who's openly paying someone $20 million, they want to keep that number down because then the coaches can come in here and demand everything they wanted. And if that becomes a thing, then it will be at some point factored into the salary cap.
Yeah.
Matt Rule, 7 years, $62 million.
Wow.
Why?
Wow. So there you go. That's like $9 a year, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's about $9 a year, yeah. Amazing. Why would you do that?
Von Miller made double what Matt Rule makes.
Only double?
Which is kind of sad, right?
That's insulting to Von Miller. If I'm Von Miller, I go out there and say, it's got to be at least 5 times.
A lot of players, they go into these negotiations like, listen, this guy at my position made this. Von Miller's going to go into free agency and be like, listen, Matt Rule is making this, all right? You guys have to pay me at least double that. That's insane.
At the very least.
The other thing with coaches is their contracts are fully guaranteed. So that's
true.
I mean, that's a
different.
different story a little bit. But I will say, if the Rams, let's just simulate it out. All right, the Rams are going to give Sean McVay some great big deal, right? They give him like a 4-year contract, and then he's ready to move on. But, is that the most likely scenario, or is it more likely you think they give him like a 1 or a 2-year contract? I really do think he's nearing the end. Because for him personally, think about this. He's getting married this summer.
He had to coach Jared Goff for 4 years.
He had to coach Jared Goff. I mean, that accelerated his career. That was like, those 4 years were like 4 times 5 per.
He feels older than Belichick right now.
He's in this thing deep, so he knows. He's got wrinkles from this Goff situation. I just think McVay, I mean, these rumors wouldn't be out there if there weren't some legitimacy to them. I just think him getting married this summer, he's answered the questions. He's kind of danced around the questions. I mean, obviously his
wife
agent
answered it more than, or his fiance answered it more.
What did she say?
There's a couple stories she put on her social media though. She's like, "Don't worry, he's coming back." She said it a couple times, so he hasn't said it, but she.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I just think we need to be open-minded here about maybe McVay takes a 2-year deal and he's like, all right, and then we'll reevaluate after that. And maybe if Kroenke's going to open his wallet and he'll give him the $20 million for 2 years, or a 3-year 45 or something, and then he comes back and reevaluates and says, all right, Stafford's getting older, Kupp's getting ready for his new deal. He wants to get traded, whatever. Something crazy's going on in the Rams and we're starting to, this lack of draft capital is catching up to us. Okay, now I'm getting out of here.
All right, Tony,
maybe that's what happened.
Here's your bet of the week.
Okay.
I just made it up in my head.
All right.
Which is more likely? Sean McVay is broadcasting games next year, or Tom Brady's playing games next year?
Tom Brady's playing games next year. No doubt about it.
Okay.
He's
I would agree with that.
I think
okay.
What's going to happen is...
Give me a percentage on that one, by the way.
Before I give you a percentage, here's something, a very logical scenario that I can see unfolding.
San Fran.
Let me finish.
Sorry.
Do we gotta have some manners, or can I talk for 2 minutes?
No. We got to get through these things.
Hush. He just agreed to do this big movie. I have somehow, some way, if it hasn't already been agreed.
Hold on, wait. Can you give me some details on the movie? I don't know what's going on.
It's literally a movie about driving to the Falcons Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like he's playing a fan driving to the Falcons Super Bowl.
Yes.
Brady is in it?
Yes. He's producing it and he's going to act in it.
Has he already done it?
No, he just decided yesterday he's going to go do this.
That he's going to, or that he already has?
He's going to. We don't know yet. I don't think he knows. Here's the point. He's working on some movie. We're better to work on a movie.
Movies take a long time.
Can I talk?
I'm just saying, like, what the hell? If he thinks he's going to be back in September?
Let me finish.
Forget about OTAs. This is not happening.
He's going to go film this movie. He's going to go to California to film this movie. While there, he just so happens, it's just a coincidence.
Spending time with his family, right?
Huh?
In California.
Oh, yeah, he's going to spend time with his family. Yeah.
Tampa.
Yeah, that's what it is. He's going to end up in California. In there, somehow he's going to bump into 49ers management. They're going to realize we don't have a quarterback. You could still do this. Come on by.
I'm just saying, an average Hollywood film takes anywhere between 90 to 210 days, depending on the genre and the scale of the film.
That's not that much.
That's what it says on StudioBinder.com. 210 days? That's 2/3
I'm
of the
being
year.
interrupted for StudioBinder.com.
Studio Binder says, all right, well, I'm just saying, how long does it take to film a 2-hour movie? It says can take up to 3 months to shoot. Plus, you got post-production stuff.
Hey, it's March.
Brady's the director of this movie. He's going to be involved.
He's going to be ready for August.
Let them draft everything. Don't get involved with the draft. Let them handle this. San Francisco's organized this pretty well. He's just going to accidentally end up there, and then he's going to sign with the 49ers when they have no quarterback.
And then his movie will release when he's in the Super Bowl with the 49ers.
See, there you go.
Wow.
Somehow, some way facing the Falcons in the championship.
Just because I think Trey Lance is just going to tear his ACL in minicamp, and then
I
they
was
call
thinking
it.
preseason.
And then they go.
This is is awful. I will say
after they trade Jimmy to the Colts
Bay.
for
Yeah.
Wentz because that makes sense for both
Yeah.
teams.
well, we know the Colts aren't bringing back Wentz, right?
Yeah.
This is a done deal.
But I
right?
mean, would
He's
you
not coming back.
rather have Jimmy? I think
Yes.
you would, but
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
but
the quintessential definition of a Band-Aid quarterback.
It's kind of a lateral move.
I mean,
sort of.
yes, it's putting a bigger Band-Aid on over a smaller Band-Aid.
Hey, you could argue that there was already a cut there. Wentz just made the cut bigger. Now you need a bigger Band-Aid.
Now you need a bigger Band-Aid.
No,
That's a great analogy.
The cut
Yeah.
was the ghost of Andrew Luck, and they're trying to.
Right.
Yeah, well, the problem was Carson Wentz gave them hope again. He was the first real quarterback that gave them hope, and then it didn't work.
And then
Yeah.
the Jacksonville Clowns infected
Carson
it.
Wentz was the Vaseline that they applied to the Luck Band-Aid, but it ended up being that Wentz actually was salt instead of Vaseline. They took a Vaseline bottle and it just had salt in it, and then they made the cut way bigger. And to Andrew's point, now the Band-Aid needs to be larger too. So maybe Garoppolo is the answer. I mean, at the end of the day, they could choose to make the right decision and get a real quarterback who, maybe instead of a Band-Aid, it could be. Healing.
If it's magic.
But we'll see. If
But
it's magic, right?
Speaking of teams that need to make the right decision, can we come back to the Super Bowl teams that just lost and talk about their
So, how
predictions,
about
please?
anything about what the Rams should do?
Anything? Well, I already said that they should re-sign OBJ to a reasonable contract.
Can you get him on a 2-year deal that's,
Floatable.
under $10 million or something?
No.
And maybe, why not?
Under $10 million per year? Sure.
Yeah.
Then that's fine.
Yeah.
I would say collectively, no chance.
Well, but even then, I mean,
he said
he's
he
not
was.
getting signed this year. We know that.
He
right?
did say he was interested in coming back on a discount. Obviously, it was before the Super Bowl, but
But yeah, I'd give him 8 or 9 per year. I think that's fine. I wouldn't have a problem paying that for OBJ. But the bigger thing I think that's more important is you draft at least 2 offensive linemen because
Yeah.
you expect one of them to miss. And Whitworth was an outstanding player for them. You need someone to fill that void.
and Noteboom played well, but he's also a free agent now.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying you draft at least 2. And then as far as your quarterback, I think quarterback you're all set. The biggest thing
Resign Von Miller too. It sounds like
you need Von Miller to take a discount.
but it sounds like Von Miller doesn't necessarily want to take a discount, but Donald says Von Miller's coming back, so that kind of means Von Miller's coming back.
That or you go get somebody like a Shaq Barrett.
Yeah.
And that's actually one that wouldn't shock me because he was in Denver. This team seems to love their former Denver players and coaches. So it wouldn't shock me all that much if Shaq Barrett ends up there if he's able to sign for cheaper than Von Miller.
So you're saying Fangio is going to be on the staff next year?
Oh.
It is possible.
I think it would. I think it would be really good.
Yes, it's actually possible.
It kind of fits the Wade Phillips type mold, right?
No, he does. And this is the same team that brought over Aqib Talib. They brought over Von Miller.
Yeah.
Wouldn't shock me if they just kept going down that rabbit hole of the 2015 Broncos defense. Just take all of them.
Yeah.
So that's something I could see happening. But those are some of my decisions that I think the Rams should make. The other one is
What about secondary?
that's the other thing. You need a corner or you need a safety. Did you see how badly Jalen Ramsey was getting cooked? Now, I don't think Jalen Ramsey's done. He's still an outstanding corner
Yeah.
as much as it pains me to say that. That being said, why was there no safety back there?
And why was the starting safety a guy who was playing pickup basketball 2 weeks ago and tore his pec in the Super Bowl?
Yes.
And still played.
Yeah, and that's a credit to Weddle, but you need a safety back there.
Yeah.
Go get
That
one.
can't be the
He's
option.
not coming back. Yeah.
Although I do think that the formula of getting a veteran did work out for them. You got lucky in that Weddle was as good as he was,
Yeah.
but I think you need a veteran safety who's proven in this league and can make it work. Your strategy as far as drafting has got to be offensive line and then injury backups that you train into them. Like a great role that they did with that was wide receiver with Van Jefferson.
Yeah.
They didn't need him the year they drafted him, but then he was able to step up a year or two later and be great. That's what the Rams should be doing. And quite honestly, the Rams are not a stupid team. Their owner is, but Sean McVay and their recent management decisions have not been stupid.
Yeah.
So I do expect them to go with a number.
And clearly they're not afraid to spend and go get a guy.
Yeah.
And they probably will again.
Yeah. So I expect them to make a number, maybe not all of them, but a number of the moves that I suggested.
Yeah.
So the question we're all wondering, where do you think Sonny Michel ends up?
First of all, I know you cut me off, and you're useless. He was in the middle of saying, so you're going to cut him
sorry.
off too?
Sorry.
No, I agree. I just think I need to simulate the possibility of McVay leaving. Is there a chance? I mean, forget if there is a chance. All right, we already established there's maybe a 10% chance. I agree with that. I'm just saying, if McVay left, what would that even look like for this Ram team?
Jeff Fisher all over again. It's the same thing that happened when
Who's the coach? Is it the defensive coordinator? Who's that? Raheem Morris. It could be him, right?
What it's going to be is going to be the 90s Cowboys all over again. Jimmy Johnson, maybe he quit, maybe he was fired, who knows. Jimmy Johnson's gone. And you've got an outstanding team in his wake for 2 years if the new guy's not a moron and can work with it. You can't destroy a team that quickly. Just ask Rex Ryan. He inherited an outstanding team. It took him at least 3 years before he destroyed it. So I think that's
one butt.
And one butt fumble, yes. But it took, as much of a clown as Rex Ryan is of a head coach, it took him 3 years to destroy the Jets. He inherited a great team. It's the exact same thing here. You're going to inherit an outstanding team from Sean McVay that's already built. It's going to take at least 3 years to destroy it. So for the next year or two, no matter who the coach is, you're going to have a good team.
I agree with that. That's a good point. I just want to say that Kevin O'Connell having left to Minnesota, and I believe the Rams hired an offensive coordinator already, probably means that McVay's coming back. So I just want to contradict myself.
Oh, that's good.
One more time before we move to another topic.
Do you want to talk about what we think the Bengals should do, and then what
Sure.
We know they're going to address the offensive line, right? That's
sure,
not a question.
In the 7th round, sure.
So I'll run through the same thing. Key free agents.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about it. Riley Reif obviously was hurt, but Ogunjobi, Uzama.
How old is Reif?
He's 33.
Okay.
And they
he
signed him
didn't
to a
play.
prove it deal, and he got
proved
hurt.
that he could get injured.
Correct.
Yeah.
He's good at that.
Then we get to the good ones. Hargraves, Apple, Trey Flowers. The other big one is Jesse Bates, but he's a likely tag candidate. I mean, not that really changes what you think. I think they probably are going to bring back Uzama. He had a great year. Reif might come back, especially if they can get him for the same number. He only got paid $7.5 million this year, so that's good. And they're lucky because they don't have to. Vernon Hargraves, he was probably going to get cut if he was still on the team because of.
He's getting cut.
Eli Apple, he has worn out. You can't re-sign Kevin King, is what I'm saying. So Eli Apple's gone.
So get Vernon Hargraves, Eli Apple, and Kevin King all on the same team.
Hey, Packers are looking. But so what do you expect from the Bengals?
What do I expect?
What do you want and what do you expect?
I want go get a real corner. What I want is go get a real offensive line. It's easy. Those are the two reasons why you lost. No offensive line, no corner. And if you get those two pieces, you actually have a very good team here. You've got receivers. You've got Joe Mixon. You've got a defensive line occasionally. All you need is corners, a secondary, and an offensive line.
I think it's something that we're going to notice when we get to our free agency thing. But corners is... The market for corners this year is extremely weak.
Yep.
There's J.C. Jackson, and then a bunch of guys who are 30 and overpaid, or 33 and overpaid. So it's a really interesting thing because a lot of teams need cornerbacks. And I was hearing the other day somebody saying, why should we pay J.C. Jackson? He's not even a number one. Well, maybe he isn't the perfect number one, but there's probably about 5 number one quarterbacks in the NFL right now. So you pay him.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion. So I think that's an interesting thing because I think you have to go draft if you're going to get guys in the secondary because do you want to sign Steph Gilmore? No, I don't want to. Yeah. I'm afraid of that. There's a lot of guys like that who are in the cornerback market. I can't think of all the names right now, but that's the type of caliber guys that are the second best guy in the class.
And it's weird because Stephon Gilmore was the defensive player of the year just 2 years ago, and then look where things have changed.
They have to go all in on the offensive line. If they can't have that, then they're not going to have Burrow. No. I mean, Burrow just keeps getting hit, and the problem is he loves contact. Yeah. And so he doesn't mind. He's not going to bark. He just gets hit, and he just gets right back up as long as he physically can. But that's going to be their problem is finding offensive line, and obviously corner, to your point, Kyle, it's going to be tough to get some talent there. But they should go all in and do a Chiefs-esque offensive line rebuild, in my opinion. And if they don't, then they're fooling themselves at thinking they have another chance to get out of the AFC with, who knows how many good teams. I was just thinking the other day.
This year.
You got really lucky. I mean, you got to think about all the good quarterbacks that we have, and then on top of that, the good coaches that you have that don't necessarily have elite quarterbacks with them, or just good organizations. I mean, think about this. You got Mahomes, Allen, Burrow is in the mix here. You've got, you got Herbert, obviously.
Yep.
So those are the real top 4 quarterbacks of the bunch in the AFC.
AFC, yes.
Yep, and you can...
Maybe you get Rodgers, who knows?
Maybe Rodgers, possibly. You've got, no matter what you think of Lamar, you've got the Baltimore Ravens as one of the organizations that manages to stay competent and competitive.
All right, that's fair.
The Steelers do the same thing every year.
Carson Wentz, yeah.
The Steelers with Wentz will do that next year. The Patriots always stay competitive. They got one of the great coaches. You've got great coaches in Reich. You've got a great coach of the year in Mike Vrabel. Yeah. You've got, even Lovie Smith isn't a joke. At least you don't have a joke in Houston anymore.
Flores, what?
Flores is gone, but you've got that's 9 teams that I managed to just rattle off out of, and then you got Josh McDaniels, who knows what he does. You might get Rodgers in Denver, or if Denver got Garoppolo, they would be really competitive. That's like 10 or 11 teams that are really solid teams that you're going to be fighting with to get in. And if you don't give yourself a fighting chance, that offensive line going into next year is trouble. If they don't address it, they got problems. They might not even make the playoffs.
And it honestly would be pretty nice if they did. That way they'd fire Zach Taylor.
No, they won't do that.
No. Well,
they just gave him a contract.
Yeah, I know.
Until 25,
Mistakes were made.
Or 26.
Here's what I expect. We all agreed there are 2 areas they need to fix. What do I expect the Bengals to do? I expect them to fix 1. I'm not sure which one that is yet. But I think probably the one they're going to fix is offensive line, because Burrow died 2 years in a row. So I think that they will fix the offensive line. I think that they're going to put a Band-Aid on the secondary, hire more random scab corners, and then get exposed again.
Sherman and the McCourty twins?
It wouldn't shock me. It genuinely would not shock me if one of and or multiple of those people you mentioned get signed.
I think it's also worth pointing out, I think the offensive line, there's better options there in free agency than secondary. Brandon Sheriff's a big-time name who's probably not going to get a big-time deal from Washington. I would be surprised if that happens. Yeah. Cam Robinson's another name that might get let go. Dwayne Brown, obviously old, but guys like that. There's a lot of guys like that. Obviously, Trent Brown's another guy.
Ryan Jensen's a free agent. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Ryan Jensen is a free agent. So there's good names on here that you can make work that I think are going to be upgrades. So I think it's more likely that if they're intelligent, I think you target those corners early. Certainly, I wouldn't say don't draft offensive linemen, but you can grab Brandon Sheriff on a big deal and then find one of these tackles that can hold it down, a Dwayne Brown, Cam Robinson. Maybe you bring back Riley Reif for a year. I think those type guys can hold it down until you get some guys up in the pipeline.
I think a great candidate you mentioned is Dwayne Brown. I think you need an old offensive tackle who's been there for a long time and can teach these guys how to play. Dwayne Brown has been with garbage teams. So I think you kind of show them, like, guys, this is how we do it. Come on. I've been the guy who sat out waiting out for a big deal. I came off the couch and I still played outstanding. Then they traded me to Seattle.
If they really want to, Teron Armstead from New Orleans is probably going to be the big paid guy, and New Orleans isn't going to do it. So,
well, speaking of big payments, do we want to talk about potential NFL franchise tag candidates?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I got a bunch of options here, and essentially I just want you to tell me how likely it is that their team decides to use the franchise tag on him. And Kyle, if you want to take it upon yourself and take a guess what that franchise tag cost would be, then that's great, but we don't need that necessarily. Okay. The first one on the list, and you mentioned it, is J.C. Jackson with the Patriots. how likely is it that they'll pay him? And realistically, I think that I can't see them franchise tagging him. The last time they franchised a corner, I believe it was Asante Samuel in 2007. I don't see that happening.
Didn't they tag Butler?
I don't know. There was a restricted tag. That wasn't a franchise tag though. There was something different.
Okay.
What I do expect some sort of a long-term deal, and by quote-unquote long-term, I could see a 3-year deal, 4-year deal. Doesn't have to be anything ridiculous. I do think it's more likely that they'll agree to a longer deal with him than a franchise tag.
So the franchise tag for corners is $17 million.
17?
As far as I know, I heard that Jackson had not heard from the Patriots yet, which would indicate to me they're going to tag him, right?
They're either going to tag him or they're moving on.
Right? I don't know if they're going to issue him a long-term deal, or at least they tag him while they work out a long-term deal because they have buy themselves some time.
That could work. I think the big thing is he's not a number one. Belichick's entire defense, the entire structure of his defense, relies on there being a Ty Law, a Darrelle Revis, a prime Stephon Gilmore to take people down.
There's just not those guys, though. That's the thing.
Belichick, I can see him drafting a couple corners, but I do expect him to find somebody and go after him and pay a long-term deal for it, just like he did with Gilmore.
Yeah, but even then, if they tag Jackson and then go after the number one, just to buy themselves a year to find out whether Jackson can develop further or if they get somebody.
They still have decent cap space, right?
Yeah, I think so. So we can go back and check.
Not a lot, but I think if they tag JC...
Well, you're not going to have a lot of space after you signed everyone last year, which they pretty much did. I think that there is a chance of it. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. I'd say the chance is on the lower side, and I say that's maybe about a 50-50 chance.
And if he makes it to the free agency, I don't think he's coming back because somebody's going to pay him more.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't be dumb not to. If you're Cincy and J.C. Jackson's available, you give him whatever he wants because he's going to change your team.
Yeah,
of course, you're going to trade him if you tag him and then he really gets pissed off. Then at least you can trade him.
Yeah,
they have $7 million in cap space.
I think that they should.
Only
it's
7.
Going to be hard to work it out.
So they'd have to move something.
They have to move some things around.
Yeah, and there's definitely going to be a few things. Like one, maybe a little bit of a surprise, but I think tight end Smith is gone.
Jonnu Smith.
I think Smith is gone.
Well, let's see. His dead cap is 26.5.
My point.
So I don't know. I mean, that seems kind of hard to move on from a guy like that.
I didn't say cut. You could still trade him and avoid.
Well, you could trade him.
I think that he gets traded. I'm not going to say it's the Titans, but somebody with connections to Vrabel because he did a lot more in Tennessee than he ever did up here in New England. He's been, to be honest, a bit of a disappointment. The tight end that's really stood out, that's been outstanding, is Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry has lived up to that contract. Smith hasn't. I think Smith gets moved to create cap space.
Could be.
I think that's interesting.
So, as far as to answer the question, J.C. Jackson, I'm giving it a 50-50 chance, leaning towards no, but it's possible. What do you guys think?
I'm going 80-20 that he gets tagged.
I think it's more likely than not. I'll go 60-40.
60-40, okay. Next one on the list, tight end Mike Gesicki for the Dolphins. Nobody cares.
You tag
we can skip that.
You tag tight ends because tight ends don't get paid anything.
Yeah.
Tight end tag is $10 million.
I'm not paying tight end for my. I'll go.
No,
draft a tight end.
I think the reason that is brought up in that article is because Mike McDaniel comes from the Shanahan system. They utilize the tight end. Probably more than maybe any other system does. And they rely on it. So, I don't know. I think that would be a good move.
The tight end is the cheapest position to tag outside of the punter kicker.
Yeah.
I mean, I always hear it. I always think if it's insane. The guy outside of you, the tag is 20 mil. The guy inside of you, the tag is 17, and you get tagged 10. So, it's interesting, and I think it's worth the value, especially down there.
The interesting thing is there a grievance with Gesicki because he plays wide receiver? Really, I mean, he's really a wide receiver.
I don't think he would be able to get away with it.
Yeah,
it's the same thing as
Jimmy Graham tried it a few years ago.
Jimmy Graham.
If Jimmy Graham in his prime couldn't get away with it, I don't think Gesicki does.
I mean, Gesicki's really not a blocker, and that's the other thing about how this matches up with McDaniel because he's going to try and use him as a blocker. His tight end. I should rephrase. Mike McDaniel, his tight end is going to need to be a blocker, and Gesicki is not. So maybe that is a reason why he wouldn't get tagged.
Yeah, I think it's maybe 1/3, maybe 40% chance.
Yeah, I'll give it a 35% chance.
Kyle?
I think it's pretty likely. I think it's like 70.
That he gets tagged.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Then how ironic is this? We have safety Jesse Bates for the Bengals. So you're a member of the secondary that almost single-handedly just cost us a Super Bowl.
Well, Bates is the one bright spot, I will say.
I know it. He's good, but you're going to have to pay a lot for him. I mean,
13 is the number for safeties.
Okay, that's high. You're paying a lot of money for, okay, he's the bright spot. By bright spot, you mean he's the C student surrounded by a group of F students.
I mean, it is. I think you're more likely to tag him and sign him to a long deal just because he's been in the league for 4 years and this is his first good one.
Right.
So he has to prove it to you.
Right.
That's
I
the
agree.
thing is, it makes sense. It's just one of those that, as someone who's managing my money, I don't want to be paying you top 5 for what I just saw.
Yeah, but I would rather sign him 1 year for 13 than 3 years for 30. I think that's how I would attack it, just because he's going to prove it, and you're going to bring in a bunch of new secondary guys, at least hypothetically.
I don't like the idea of tagging him. I'd probably do something. I'd go with the 3 for 30, but I would do a 1 year out. And I would.
I guess that's.
I wouldn't sign anybody in that secondary I wouldn't franchise tag anyone, and anyone who I do put a deal with, there's a 1 year out.
That's fair.
That's how I would handle
Bates,
anybody.
yeah, but given the market constraints, I think Bates would get paid if he does hit the market.
Yeah, if he
I mean,
goes somewhere
some team
else,
like
he's
the
gonna
Jets
get
is
paid.
going to pay.
Oh no,
Right.
they're gonna have to go get new corners and new safeties.
Well,
What a shame for the Bengals.
once again, there's not much out there. I don't know.
That's where you attack it in the draft.
I mean, we'll see if they're successful
Kyle
with
just
that.
brought
That's
up
a tough one.
you have free agent offensive tackles. You can use free agency to tackle that and tackle this in the draft and just rebuild everything. I think that's what you're going to have to do.
The crazy part about the Bengals is that they have so much work to do,
They do.
and that they just somehow made the Super Bowl in the AFC.
Sometimes making the playoffs is the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
A great example is last year with Trubisky and the Bears made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's just about the worst thing that could happen to them, because now you got to restart everything, the fields and everything else. But without getting sidetracked, do we have anything else we want to say about Bates?
No.
Let's maybe skip the next couple. I think I'm looking at the same list as you.
Okay.
Let's go to Orlando Brown.
Good idea. And yes, you probably are looking at the same list as me. Orlando Brown, yeah, he's getting tagged.
100%.
He's getting tagged, but what's their cap situation?
Doesn't matter.
It's
They'll
not
move.
great.
They'll move anything they need to
It's
around.
not great, but I think the Mahomes deal kicks in this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's rising throughout, but I'm pretty sure it's not great. But you need him, and you don't trade him if you're not gonna sign him long term. I think you are, but you might just tag him to talk, just to get the talk going.
Yeah, I don't think you have a choice. You saw what happened with Kansas City when you don't have an offensive line. They got humiliated in the Super Bowl.
The tackle number is 17, which isn't terrible.
They have 11 mil in cap space.
Yeah. So they've now have Tooney long term. I think you take Brown. You traded the asset for him. You're keeping him around some way.
Yeah.
I assume it's going to be long term. That way they might be able to at least spread that money out too. They find a way to write those contracts in a certain type of way. They've got some other things to look at, especially secondary, Tyrann Mathieu being gone. But I think you either tag him or sign him long term.
And incidentally, Tyrann Mathieu, very, very good type of person to go after if you're Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, that's the level of guys. Is he's a little bit injury prone. He's 32. Believe it or not, I know it's insane to think Tyrann Mathieu, because it feels like he was the honey badger at LSU like last year, but
he's old.
He's old. So that's the type of guys that are really the market right now. I think he does fit though.
I think he goes well with what Cincinnati wants to do.
I think we're all in agreement. Orlando Brown's going to be back. I don't know
Gonna
if he's
get
necessarily
tagged.
going to get tagged. But
Well, I think he'll get tagged because the deadline's coming up, and I think they need to work out a deal, and I think he'll play hardball. So I think they'll end up tagging him, and then if they end up signing him, then they sign him. But if they don't, they don't.
The next one's interesting.
Yeah.
Devonte Adams, because he played on the tag last year, right?
I believe he did.
Yeah. I think Devonte is getting a I think he's getting a long-term deal.
Is he just package dealing, though?
Yes.
Yep.
And Rodgers is back.
I was about.
Hey, he's not ready to make any announcement.
Yeah, I don't know if Rodgers is back.
Okay.
I think Rodgers is going. What I think will happen.
Does Nathaniel Hackett get fired if Rodgers goes back?
I'd fire him.
Like
You have
the
to
next
realize,
day it comes
there's
out.
no other reason you hire Nathaniel Hackett other than he sits down and goes, I can bring you Aaron Rodgers. No other reason you hire the man. So if he fails, fire him on the spot.
I mean, even if Nathaniel Hackett gets Russell Wilson, you're like, okay, why do we have Nathaniel Hackett?
I don't trust you to get Russell Wilson.
Yeah, so that's
This could have been Dan Quinn working with Russell Wilson. No, Devontae's back, I think, on a long-term deal.
right. I mean, I if you are talking to him, and even as the Packers, I don't think you want to tag him a second year. That's just not necessarily good for the relationship in general. So
Yeah.
Well, there's that, and also if you tag him a second or third time, the pay goes up. That you have to pay him even more.
Right.
So,
Well, I mean, that could be his hijacking the system, though. I mean, Adams may look at it like, listen, Rodgers, I know we've said this for the last couple of years, but maybe this is the last year. I don't want to be stuck here with Jordan Love.
yeah.
Like, he might really stink. We don't know. And
no,
Devontae sees him in practice.
We've seen him.
Devontae knows if Jordan Love is good.
We've seen
and Devontae is acting as if Jordan Love is bad.
He played against the garbage Chiefs earlier in the year when they were downright horrible, and Love managed to be even worse. He couldn't beat that team. I don't think he put one touchdown on the board. The Chiefs are used to being in a big game and not seeing a touchdown go up on the board. But either way, it was against them this time. So I think that it's likely he gets a long-term deal. I don't see him getting tagged.
Green Bay doesn't have a lot of space, though.
That's the other reason why you don't tag him. I think because you can't afford it. So I think the bigger thing is either you let him walk or you give him a big deal that's cheap up front and then trade him because that's going to make him.
I mean, I don't think you can let him walk and just take a third rounder in a couple years, though.
Also, Rodgers
you'll get
isn't
more than a third rounder if it's Devonte
I guess that's
Adams.
true.
Rodgers isn't coming back without Adams' assurance.
Yes.
So that's another piece of it.
I think the big thing is realistically any team that's trading for Rodgers, you're trading for Rodgers and Adams, and it's at least 3 first-round picks, along with probably an outstanding player along with that.
That's fair. Do we want to keep talking about some of these guys, or do you want to skip around?
Maybe 2 or 3 more. And
Okay.
then after 2 or 3 more, we can hit another topic.
Maybe the next guy, and then we can talk about maybe Chandler Jones. We can do Chandler Jones and Carlton Davis.
Good idea. I like those 2.
Which one do you want to start with, Tony?
Carlton.
Okay. Davis, he's 25. He's Tampa's best corner. Obviously, Tampa's kind of in an interesting money and team situation. So, what do you think they're going to do, Andrew?
Yeah. Carlton Davis.
The Buccaneers have $7 million in cap space.
Once again, that hit is 17.
Yeah. So my
Godwin's a free agent. Again.
Godwin's a free agent. I think
Pierre-Paul's a free agent. Jensen's a free agent.
Everyone's a free agent.
Gronk.
The bigger issue, I think, is the offense. Because the defense, I think you can build back quicker through the draft. Offense is a little bit harder. So I think their offense will go to somebody like a Chris Godwin. I don't know if Rob Gronkowski can come back, but he has been a good force for you. So I think your idea is to get them back. I believe O.J. Howard's also up this year. Not that he's been extraordinary, but I think you use your money to secure offense and get what you can. Whereas if you have somebody, like you have a Tryon that you just drafted to take Pierre-Paul's place, I say you let Carlton walk and you let me get another good corner or 2 in the draft. Because this draft in particular, it's not a good offensive draft. It's more of a defensive draft. I don't know how outstanding of a defensive draft it is, but it's a lot better there than it is on offense. So I think that's where you have to rely if you're going for replacing Carlton Davis.
If Carlton Davis is allowed to go, do you think he's the best corner on the market? Is he better than JC?
Yeah, who are you? No, I don't think
he's
he's better
not.
than JC.
He's not better than JC. I think he's a good corner. He's one that you might be able to get for a decent price at a long-term deal because Carlton Davis is good, but I wouldn't call him extraordinary.
I think he's getting a huge deal if he gets to free agency because he's
Why?
25.
Yes, but he's not that good.
He's 25, and unfortunately, he's probably top 12 corner in the league.
But I don't know that breaks $20 million per year like Ramsey.
I don't think he's getting Ramsey money, but he still might get 5 years, at 18 plus per.
I see him being worth 15, but I don't know if.
Yeah, I mean that's probably what he is worth, but I don't know if that's what I think. I just think if he gets out there, he's getting a big deal.
I do think that he's another Bengals candidate that you should.
go after. Somebody's going to spend money on him if he gets out there. That's what I think.
Yeah, but
same as JC.
I agree with that.
But also the Bengals are notoriously cheap, and so I don't know if they're going to do that either. So
I don't think he gets tagged.
No, I don't think he gets tagged. I think he's gone.
Okay. I think he does get tagged. I think that they're going to kind of approach it the same way that they approached Godwin and say, prove it. And I think it worked out for them with Godwin.
Yeah.
For worse for him, but better for the Bucs because he's only going to play half of next year. So you can get him on a more team-friendly deal because of that. Because you have to say, hey, you're only going to play, if it's a 3-year deal, you're only going to play 2.5 years. So we're going to pay you less.
Yeah.
I think that they can get away with that with Davis, make the numbers work. Obviously, a lot of guys are leaving the books. It's interesting to see if maybe they decide that with all those guys leaving that they're going to blow it up. So I'm interested to see what Tampa does, but I think we'll learn from what they do with Carlton, what their plan is.
Yeah.
All right,
I
let's do our
agree.
last tag.
And with the rest of the free agents, too, for Tampa.
Yeah. Let's do our last tag talk. That's a nice
Tag talk.
Tag
talk.
talk.
It's pretty
We'll
good.
have to do some tag talk next week.
I'm sure we will.
So we've got Chandler Jones, Cardinals. He's listed here as an outside linebacker. So the linebacker number is 17. The D end number is 20.
The Cardinals have $2.7 million in cap space.
Not 27, 2.7.
2.7. And
yeah.
when do we start talking about Kyler? After this?
When was he drafted? 2019.
No.
Oh, no.
About
it's another
Kyler
topic about Kyler.
being a problem.
Yeah. No, that's. Yeah. But talk about Kyler. When was he drafted? 2019. Right?
2019.
Yeah.
19, 20, 21. It's right about now that you have to consider putting the 5th-year option.
I think
on
next
him,
year is his year 4. So he's
due for a deal if he's going to be like the other guys and get a deal after year 3.
That's my point.
And Jones is 32. So if you kind of want to squeeze out that last contract, I mean, you can almost hypothetically give him the money that Kyler is going to get next year and say, okay, this is the year we're going to try it. I think that might be something that they're interested in. Although Chandler Jones, I think his numbers have always been higher than his impact, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And just a factor of playing in that situation. It was interesting that when the D-line seemingly got more talented, he didn't do as well, which might be an indication of some things.
How about the double team rate and stuff like that? I mean, right, there's got to be something to do with that.
Right. So I think it's interesting. I'm curious to see what they do. I don't know if the relationship is as great as maybe it sounds. Especially, I mean, I think the Cardinals in general isn't interesting to see what they do because of the way that they really kind of fell on their face in the playoffs. And that's Kyler, that's Cliff, that's the whole defense.
And they have a history of, let's just say, not living up to expectations.
Yeah, and even this year, halfway through the year, they were the best team in the league, and second half of the year, they were not.
They were a wild card team, and then as a wild card team, they got embarrassed.
Right.
I mean, at least last year's wild card team won the Super Bowl. You couldn't even win a playoff game.
I think Jones is gone. I think he's 32 years old. They have Chandler Jones, Zach Ertz, A.J. Green, Max Williams, James Conner is a free agent. All these guys are free agents. Christian Kirk, the great Colt McCoy. We can go down the line.
Just JJ was a 2-year deal, right?
J.J. Watt he's not a free agent. Okay. He's back, I think.
Well, I mean, 2-game deal.
No, you have to keep Colt McCoy, so I think Chandler Jones is going to have to go.
Yeah.
That 2.7 is going to Colt.
Yeah, we're going to max out her. Yeah, well, I think it's going to be really hard for the Cardinals, especially with what's going on with Kyler right now. I think he's going to walk. I don't think he's getting tagged or signed. I think Chandler, that is.
I would agree with that. I think Chandler, Plus, I think here's his thing. He won a Super Bowl or two in New England. I think it was one Super Bowl. You know, you were in the organization that epitomizes winning better than any other. And then all of a sudden you get traded to the Cardinals. One of the most pathetic franchises with one of the most pathetic owners.
I mean, Bill knows how to humble people.
Yeah, that will do
if
it.
Nothing else.
I would say, wasn't that the exact same season where Jamie Collins demanded more money and then he shipped him to the winless Browns?
Yes.
Anybody else want to get paid? Then
Mankins.
You can go. Mankins is another one. So you want to ask? You want to ask for money? I'm going to put you there.
Best for the team.
So yeah, best for the team.
That's best for a team. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But here's the point. I think Chandler's going, wow, I went from a Super Bowl to that. I'm not saying necessarily he's coming back to the Patriots, but I do think there's a certain level of, you know what? Can I go to a good team, please? Can I go?
Rams?
Unfortunately, maybe. Unfortunately, maybe. But I do think he's going to go to a good team with decent management.
I gotcha.
So, no, I don't think he's getting to
Kyler Murray.
Oh, no.
Kyle, I want you to go first.
It's okay. So when Kyler Murray was drafted, we talked about it because Arizona made this decision early that, okay, last year we drafted Rosen and we're moving on. And I had a nice long rant about how Kyler's the right move. You make that move 1,000,000 times out of 1,000,000. I remember doing it in the studio. It was a good time. But there was a question. And there was a question at that time about leadership, about how outspoken he was or quiet he was, and how he makes weird decisions at times. And I think the social media thing was a little bit smoke and mirrors, but I also do think he is frustrated. And he's frustrated because he feels like he was a big reason why they lost. And he wasn't necessarily wrong. But it's also something that we all pointed out at the beginning of the year that, hey, at the end of the year when Kyler's got a rolled ankle and he's not feeling great, and you know what, he's still 5'9", 170, it's going to be tough for him. And it was. And they struggled a lot down the stretch. So I'm interested. I still think you have to look at him and say, this guy, when he's healthy, when he's on, he's top 10 in the league. I think that's at least...
No, it's fair.
It's true. So that means that you have to look at that fifth year and say he's probably coming back, and beyond that, you're probably signing him for long term because we talk about it all the time.
What else do you do?
Quarterback is he's too important.
I was saying he's getting signed. It's a matter of generally. Now again, maybe my negotiation with NFL contracts is dated or too traditional. You're playing the fourth year, maybe at least be part of the way through the fourth year before I put that fifth year option on you.
That's fair.
Well, you have to decide on the fifth year option now.
I would say decide the fifth year option. You're playing that fourth year before I give you a long-term
Before
contract.
you give the contract, yeah.
I would say Mahomes, I never would have given. They gave him the contract right after that Super Bowl win. Never would have done it. I would have made him play the fourth year first. I don't care if it's Mahomes. You play that fourth year.
Obviously, the Browns made the right choice.
Huh?
Yeah, the Browns made the right choice with Baker. Yeah,
exactly. I'm going to force you to do this. You're going to play these years, and then I'll decide if you're worth it. I'm not
Certain
paying
guys
you
are different, though. I mean, Mahomes, I'm not going to argue with, or Allen, I'm not going to. I mean, Allen maybe because it was really only one good year, but we know Allen's good now, so it's not doesn't matter anymore.
It's not something I would have done.
But for Baker, Murray, I still think. That's one where you got to play it out.
You're playing that fourth year. You're not getting a contract.
Murray's going to play hardball, too. This is what he doesn't get, is that he thinks he can just go to baseball and be like, a major league star right away.
Yeah, he thinks...
He doesn't want to... He doesn't understand what it is to be in single A ball in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Going whatever. What's a baseball stat? Like 1 for 4 with,
That's not bad.
Batting 192? I don't know.
That could happen.
Is that good?
No, that's not good.
All right, I didn't think so. Is he a pitcher or something? Or
I think he's a position player.
What's a? Oh, he is. Okay. Yeah. What he infield or does that mean?
I think he's like a second base or outfield.
Oh, really?
I can't remember what.
Okay.
I think it's
couple of
similar
errors
to Russell Wilson. So
couple of errors. Couple of.
The A's do have his rights up in Oakland, so
they do.
Maybe there's a little talk of trade to Oakland. Never know.
Possibly.
Yeah, make his life a little bit easier.
Or Oakland or the A's might trade him to the Diamondbacks. His rights.
Well, I think that Derek Carr would be a perfect fit for Arizona. Been around the league a long time, getting old. Put him to the Cardinals.
What is Derek Carr? What? Derek Carr?
If you trade quarterbacks.
What do you mean?
Josh McDaniels goes out and get Kyler?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You guys still think that Vegas is in Oakland?
Oh, yeah.
It should be.
Like, what am I
never should
crazy
have
land
moved
here?
to Vegas.
Like, what?
But yes.
Talking about Derek Carr for. I mean, I just think this is a really risky thing to get into. I mean, Kyler is a really risky commodity. But at the same time, what are you going to do?
You can't make him mad either.
No, you can't make him mad, but this is the thing. He thinks it's the NBA and it's not. And or he thinks it's the MLB or whatever he thinks it is. But, he thinks he can just go and delete everything from his profile and it's no big deal. I get, where fans, over-monitor that stuff and
Ben Simmons part 2.
Yeah, I mean, but this
is starting to feel like it. I mean.
Yeah, this is a real problem because I thought it was really just the fans making a big stink over nothing. And J.J. Watt came out with that video, I don't know if you saw it, where it was like, where's Kyler? And it was like, I thought this is a joke. This must be some joke, and they're going to do a big reveal. And then he came out with a statement, and his statement was basically, I would love to read it. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. But it was just a showcase in how immature he really is and that he doesn't understand anything. And that whoever he's getting advice from is just really doing him wrong.
It sounds like Terrell Owens, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad. So here's the statement. This is after all the crap has come out about him, and he's deleted the Cardinals off his Instagram, and whatever has happened, and everyone's coming out being like, "What's going on with Kyler?" Okay, this is his statement. I play this game for the love of it. My teammates, everyone who has helped me get to this position, that believed in me and to win championships. All of this nonsense is not what I'm about. Never has been, never will be. Anyone who has ever stepped between those lines with me knows how hard I go. Love me or hate me, but I'm going to continue to grow and get better.
Trust
me, I'm, me. That's 10. Oh, my God, 10 times.
I died looking at the first comment over there. Hey, you stopped growing after 7th grade. Stop talking.
and what is this?
He was right. There's plenty of room for him to grow. It's just not going to happen.
What is that statement? What does that mean?
You know what it sounds like almost? It sounds like a political candidate after they've just lost the presidency race. That's what it sounds like.
Well, I mean, the rumor was that he felt like everybody in the organization basically blamed him for the loss. I mean, he didn't play well.
He
sucked.
The whole
team didn't play well.
He sucked.
But everybody sucked.
Yeah, but at least if he was good, nobody would be saying that. He's the quarterback.
I mean,
take some responsibility.
D-Hop was gone.
And you were still the quarterback.
Fine. No, listen. Nobody would be saying, oh, Kyler, if he would just own up to it and just say, look, I got to be better, whatever.
It's the one thing Cam Newton did well when he was in New England. I was
said everything right.
I would say he said all of the right things. He took accountability. He took responsibility. I can't get mad at him. I mean, yes, I can. He was still a horrible quarterback.
Somehow he forgot all that when he went back to Carolina.
Oh, no, he lost all of that. But even still, he said the right things. He took responsibility. He took humility. And it was a matter of, he didn't say a whole lot, to be honest with you. He just came in and he worked. Wasn't very good, but he did the best that he could and then moved on. And my respect for Cam Newton, actually, I'm still not the biggest Cam Newton fan, but I had no respect for him at all.
Yeah.
Coming into New England, I gained a lot of respect for him, just seeing how he treated his work ethic, seeing how he treated his job, how his work ethic was displayed. Even when he goes out there, I remember the game against Buffalo. He got killed in that second game against Buffalo with the Patriots. That being said, you saw him go out there and consistently put in effort, consistently work with the teammates, and then he went up and owned up to it. Like, hey, I'm the quarterback. I put up 9 points.
And then week 3, he had his best game of his Patriot career.
Yeah.
Against Seattle,
that game.
Week 2, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that
was
team
that the
going
week after or before?
You're talking week 2. I'm talking about like week 9 or something when he got killed.
Okay.
But he handled it a lot better than Kyler did, and I think that's the difference between a professional, which it feels weird calling Cam Newton a professional, but professional in
And a
Cam
big
Newton
child.
against a child in Kyler Murray.
And there's something to be said about the leadership element of it, and Cam Newton being able to go 7-9 with that awful team, and versus Kyler Murray, putting up a big stink against a team who wasn't good, who ended up winning the Super Bowl.
Who did Kyler interview with that we?
It was
just
Dan
couldn't watch
Patrick.
it.
I watched
You
it the
couldn't
other
watch
day. It was Dan Patrick.
It was
Yeah,
so
awful.
much.
That's right.
So much.
Dan Patrick
awkwardness.
basically just asked him questions that everyone was going to ask him.
I'll say they're all softball questions.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. And
So,
so
I
he
mean,
get-
do you feel like it's validated the concerns?
Yes. And I feel like it's a concern going forward with this stupid statement that he's put out that means nothing.
He seems like a more talented but more diva-ish, whiny Baker Mayfield. That's what this is
Yeah.
coming out as. Except when Baker Mayfield was being a diva, it was trying to support his teammates, support his organization. When the biggest issue he had that I remember was when he did that interview with Colin Cowherd, basically saying, "Hey, how dare you dump on my teammates, dump on my organization? You can't do that. I'm the great Baker Mayfield. We're the great Cleveland Browns who haven't won a Super Bowl."
Well, at least Mayfield fights for his team.
That's the thing.
Murray
I
fights
think
for himself.
Exactly. That's the big
Yeah.
difference. You counted I or me came up in that statement 10 times.
10 times. 10 times.
Wow. That,
It's just awful. I mean, the Cardinals are going to run into this, and they would be stupid not to sign him to a long-term deal. They're going to, because they have no choice, because he is objectively a top 12 quarterback, and what are they going to do? Go to, Colt McCoy? I mean, no.
they're stuck.
So they're stuck.
It wouldn't be the first time they dumped their first overall pick for a quarterback.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be their first time.
yeah.
So it wouldn't shock me if they made him play out the fourth year, and then if he doesn't develop, you trade him to some very quarterback needy team for several first-round picks.
I mean, that could be the go, but I think this is the organization. I mean, this is the administration, I should say, that drafted Murray. So they're going to want to prove themselves right.
These are the same
And-
guys that drafted Josh Rosen.
Not Kingsbury, though.
Not Kingsbury, but that was still... Kingsbury doesn't make any decisions. It's all Billwell.
Well, Kingsbury came in, and, he convinced
Still
them to go back to Murray. Yes, it's still
Before
kind.
he even got the Arizona job, he was talking about how wonderful Kyler Murray is.
Yeah.
Then when the Billwells give Kingsbury a job, that's their way of saying, we agree with your decision. If they didn't agree...
So then there you go. I mean, Kingsbury has a say.
I mean,
Right.
we always say this, though. You, as a head coach, when you get a new job, you'll go as far as your quarterback or your first new quarterback. Mm-hmm. So I think they're just going to be tied. And I don't think they work well together.
I think the idea is that Kingsbury loves Murray, has loved Murray, and he probably doesn't want to back off of that ledge.
He loves the talent. I don't know that he loves the personality and all the drama, because I don't think...
Well, I don't know what he
I
thinks
think
about
it's
that.
very possible that Kingsbury said, "Hey, Kyler, we need you to play better," and he took that in the wrong way.
Yeah, it's possible. But do you think the relationship is murdered because of all this? I don't
No,
know. I mean,
no.
I just think
I think this is-
Kingsbury wants to prove himself right. Kingsbury wants to die on this hill. Because this is what
and I
coaches
think-
do. They don't say, "Oh, I was wrong, I was wrong." That doesn't happen a lot. I mean, it happened with McVay and Goff.
Yeah, that did.
It happened. I can't even think of another time. I mean, it's about to happen with the Colts and
Bruce
Wentz.
Arians and Jameis Winston. They brought him out of retirement to fix Jameis. After one
Right.
year, they kicked Jameis out the door.
Well, they had an opportunity that they
They-
can't refuse. But
yes, but you see...
it's
the
about
point.
to happen with Reich and Wentz. Reich is about to admit, yes, I was wrong. But this doesn't happen. This type of stuff, I mean, Kingsbury is probably going to die on this Murray Hill. Murray's more talented than any of those guys, Winston or Wentz or whatever.
Of course.
So,
Unhealthy.
when
when
healthy
healthy.
is the
And-
bigger problem.
yeah. So,
Well, I think the other big thing is, they're very similar to the Bengals. Their offensive line is terrible.
Yeah.
Number one, they're all over 6 feet. That's a problem for Kyler Murray. Number two, they can't block even if you get them to be tiny people. They can't block.
And Kyler's afraid of getting hit.
Yes, that is very true.
It's the difference between him and Joe Burrow is Burrow will tear his knee off and say, "Okay, next play,"
Well, and that's the other.
and Kyler will roll an ankle, and then you have to change the whole game plan.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all your Kyler Murray updates. I'm sure we'll get more as the weeks go on.
Should we get
Yeah.
to your guys' favorite topic?
what is it?
NFL broadcasters.
Oh, yeah.
Broadcast.
I know you guys love it. You guys are so much more into it than I am.
Tell you what, we'll get into the broadcasters, and then we'll get to NBA updates just for you.
I don't know if we want to do that or if we want to hold off, but sure.
Well, at least get to an NBA minute. Well, how much time do we have left? Like 15 minutes?
Yeah, 15 minutes, yeah.
All right, so let's do a 5-minute broadcaster check-in, and then we'll get to NBA.
Good idea.
Troy Aikman has recently signed with ESPN, Monday Night Football, and ESPN is looking to bring Al Michaels in to the game with Troy Aikman or Joe Buck. Joe Buck is apparently the number 1 pick. Al Michaels is the number 2 pick.
What?
Well, he's got the chemistry with Aikman. I don't know what your problem is with Buck. Let's hash this out now.
So here's my
Tell
thing.
me what your problem is.
First of all, we talked about this before. Buck has improved.
Yes.
So I'm not going to come out here and say he's the worst. That being said, I don't care who you put up there. Al Michaels is the number 1 overall pick. If you have an announcer, I don't know if there's anybody better than play-by-play than Al Michaels. Nobody leapfrogs him as the number 1. That's my big thing. I don't care about the chemistry. Forget it. This is my network. I want people to listen to my broadcast. I don't want it to be the same broadcast some other guy had and just put a new label on it. This is my new thing. I want Al Michaels and I want Troy Aikman because both of those guys are just professional adults. They come in, they do their job, and they do it correctly. And plus, I haven't seen that. I want to see the new chemistry. I want to make my show special.
That's a very good point, but I will slam on the table and say that Joe Buck is better than Al Michaels. I said it.
Why?
Joe Buck is better than Al Michaels. This
For
is coming
baseball.
This is coming from a former Buck hater. I was the biggest Buck hater on the planet. Worse than I hate the Bengals now. Maybe not, but just saying.
I wasn't
Possible.
My only thing is I will say Joe Buck is not bad for baseball.
Because
he's boring.
He's fine
Yeah.
for anything. All he does is tell you what's going on. Michaels is in like a fantasy land. He's like, well, it's, touchdown. It's like Michaels has seen it all. He can't be surprised ever again. He called every single major sports event that's happened. He's called it. You name it, Michaels was there in the flesh.
Yeah.
Michaels is never surprised when CJ Uzama scores a touchdown. That's never going to be exciting on Monday Night Football when the Jaguars play the Bills.
Well,
And
I think here's
whoever.
the difference. I think
James
that
Robinson scores.
Now, Buck has improved, but I think Buck's criticisms that he's heard over the years, over and over, is you show no excitement. You're too bland. You're always going to be defined by Mitchell, that infamous call. So I think that his way to counteract that is manufactured excitement, fake excitement, and it comes across to me as fake. Whereas Al Michaels, okay, maybe you don't get crazy excitement every play. Maybe you don't have him screaming at the television when there's a Minneapolis Miracle. But he does show excitement when there's a big play.
Yeah, sure.
So, and I think that there's a certain level of, okay, I know what I'm getting. This is reliable. This is real. And I don't feel it's manufactured. I feel like I know what I'm getting, and I like this. Plus, I think that the conversations he's had, and we've seen him work with a number of different anchors. Most notably, he's worked with Chris Collinsworth. But he's worked with a number of others in the past as well, and he's had the same success. We haven't seen him, I don't believe, with Troy Aikman.
No.
But I believe they could be very successful.
I think they could. I think you're right. And I part of me wants to see a new duo take the reins on ESPN. I mean, especially on ESPN, but just a new duo would be fun. So I think I agree. But at the same time, you can't put Al Michaels on Jaguars-Texans. You just can't do it.
That's true.
He needs to have the primetime game.
Excuse me, that would be Thursday Night Football. They would never put that on Monday night.
They would.
Huh?
They would.
They
The
put
Mondays
on-
have been worse than Thursdays as of late.
Really?
They give Amazon the nice games, I think. I don't know.
No, first of all, Amazon must be paying them a lot of money.
I think they are.
But here's the other thing. I think there needs to be, and I know it's a little bit off broadcasters for a little bit, but I think there needs to be a rule of, okay, small thing, you need to at least win 4 games the year prior, and if you can't do that, then you don't get any primetime games.
I think that's fine. The
Win.
Bengals didn't have any primetime games.
Good. Good.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. They made the Super Bowl. I thought the Super Bowl was getting flexed into 1 p.m. I mean, it was
good. That would be okay with me, and I wouldn't have an issue with
like,
this.
whatever, just get it over with.
But either way, if you can't win 4 games the year prior, you don't deserve to have any primetime.
I agree. I think in general, that's an unspoken rule.
And there should be a tier of, okay, if you won at least 4 games, okay, maybe we'll give you a Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you won at least 6 games. Okay, we'll give you a Monday night. Okay, you won at least 8 games the year prior. Okay, now we'll put you on some Sunday nights.
Yeah.
There's got to be a tier here. And maybe that means, oh no, I only get playoff teams from the year before in Sunday night. Good. You're pretty much guaranteeing that I have two good teams. Good. It's the way it should be. I don't want garbage teams on Sunday night.
I agree.
I think that would be my biggest way to fix that problem. But Monday Night Football used to be two very good teams, or at the very least, usually what you'd see on Monday night is one underrated or upstart team against a good team. You know, the one that stands out to me more than any other than when they bear hugged Gronkowski in the end zone. You had the Patriots, who were the team for 2 decades, against the up-and-coming upstart Carolina Panthers. That is a quintessential Monday Night Football game to me. And controversial, yes, but it came down to the last play. That's one that stands out to me as this is a Monday night game. Or again, controversial, but the Hail Mary. That was a down-to-the-wire game. Those are things I think about when I think of Monday Night Football. And those are the types of games where I think Al Michaels is at his best.
That's delightful that you think of Monday Night Football when the games have been the best. When I think about Monday Night Football, unfortunately, I think about Ebucam. I don't know if you remember.
Yo, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think about Witten. I think about Levy. I think about Greasy. I think about all the Booger. I think about all the nightmares. I think about Booker recommending that the team spike it on 4th down. I think about all the horrible mishap that we've had on ESPN the last 5 years and how horrible it has been without John Gruden. I just think about that. I mean, think about it all the time.
They do need to bring John Gruden. I mean, yes, John Gruden, maybe you don't belong. Maybe you can't coach.
Yeah, not anymore.
Maybe you can't coach, but, you know, maybe we do need to, like, glue you to Monday Night Football.
I don't think that's...
He's got a lot of problems, though, is his issue.
I think that has passed.
Yeah, he may have passed.
I think that's gone, yeah. But McVay?
Put him there.
McVay.
But it could work.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Thursday? If Michaels does go to Thursday night... Oh, all right. Well, let's leave it here. If Buck stays on Sunday with Fox,
okay,
who is his running mate? Is it Charles Davis or is it?
I hate Charles Davis.
I can't. I don't want
not.
Charles Davis.
No.
But is it Greg Olson or Aqib Talib? Aqib Talib is who I want to see.
I want Pat McAfee.
Oh, McAfee.
It's not happening.
I know it's not, but I want Pat McAfee.
McAfee and Buck does not work.
What about McAfee? Is McAfee the color commentator?
Yeah, he wouldn't do play-by-play.
Yeah, he wouldn't do play-by-play.
I would love to see Talib, though.
What about Talib, McAfee, and
Breeze? Oh my gosh, that was bad.
Breeze would be awful.
That was terrible.
I think it could be Buck and Breeze.
They might
that could
try
be the
And then you
target.
put them on Thursday Night Football, so you have trash with trash.
If you want to talk about bad, I mean, I'll buy into Buck and Breeze. I'll short that all day, and that'll look horrible. But I mean, Aqib. What about McAfee, Aqib, and Gus Johnson? That's
I don't hate Gus Johnson.
I
like Gus Johnson. I like Gus Johnson. I don't know.
You know who the best guy is that you need? Go get Kevin Harlan.
Kevin Harlan, yeah.
I like
okay,
Kevin
so he's
Harlan.
on CBS, right?
He is.
Someone has to get him for prime time.
Yeah, that way he can call both games.
Exactly.
See, Kevin Harlan's my guy.
He can call the football game, and in the background, he can call his basketball game.
He would do it. I mean, that was the thing. I was running late. We were getting together for the Super Bowl. I was running late, but that was the thing that cheered me up. Was I got to listen to Kevin Harlan call the game, and it sounded like the best game in the world. Listening to Kevin Harlan. Then you get there, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the Rams and Bengals. It sounded so much better with him calling it. So
Michaels, we know Michaels will be gone from NBC. We don't know where he's going, whether it's
maybe he's
Thursday
traded
or
for
Monday.
a cartoon character again.
Well, it could be, but I'm just saying. I think Tirico's going to step up into that role, and so
like Tirico.
it'll be a new play-by-play on Monday, and a new play-by-play on Thursday. So there's 2 openings as far as I know. One of them will go to Michaels.
Yep.
And maybe the other one goes to Buck, or maybe Buck stays.
Can we move up Jim Nance?
I don't have a problem with Jim Nance.
Nance to move out, Jim Nance?
No, I want him to get more primetime games.
Oh, sure.
I was to say, I don't have a problem with him. I think that Nance and Tirico are in the same boat of they need a good color commentator to carry them.
I agree.
More so with Tirico, but I think they both
Tirico I
need
don't
it.
love. For some reason, when I just think of 1 p.m. CBS, there's a warm place in my heart for that, and that's usually Nance.
Well, Nance, and I think that he was able to work with Phil Simms despite Phil Simms
which is crazy.
I was going to say, despite Phil Simms being questionable, to put it kindly, but you look forward to a Simms, not a Simms, you look
Nance
forward
game.
to a Nance game with Romo.
Yeah.
You want that. And I think that Romo, I think, could really help out a guy like Tirico, because I think Tirico can hold his own on short term. I mean, I feel like he's the Nick Foles of commentators. Short term, he's fine, or you put a lot of talent around him, he's fine, but on his own, he might have a bit of an issue.
I'm just trying to figure out a way we can get Kevin Harlan on some primetime stuff. I don't think there is a way, because I think, there's no articles about him.
Nah, it won't.
Peyton. How about Peyton? Sean Peyton? Come into the booth?
Sean Payton and Peyton Manning. Throw them together. Let's go.
Peyton and Peyton.
Peyton
and Manning.
Eli, go get us some drinks.
Peyton,
Can we
Peyton,
just put
and Manning.
Stink Schlereth on there too? He actually wasn't terrible. He's done a couple games.
Yeah, he's not too bad.
He's not awful. I don't think he's ready for big time, but
Well, he's not, but I've liked what I've seen from him. So we got about 10
Speaking of
minutes.
NBA, speaking of Kevin Harlan,
Kevin Harlan, let's get into NBA a little bit.
Kyle,
NBA,
where do
let's
we
just
go?
Ban Hubie Brown, please, from announcing anything. He doesn't even know what a basketball
Oh my
is
God.
at this point. He's too old.
Oh my God, this
And
is like
Doris
worse
Burke-
than Marv.
Doris Burke is a bit of a legend, but I just can't.
I like Doris. I still don't mind.
I just can't.
What's the story with Hubie? Is he worse than Marv?
Yeah, it's just you get to a
Because
certain
to
point
me,
when
there's no one worse than
you
Marv.
just. I think Marv's a little better, but Hubie's at that point where the game has passed him 3 times by. So even when he's talking about things he used to know, it's not applicable. And he doesn't know any of the people. He doesn't know how to pronounce any of the names.
Yeah.
He can't see. Basketball is a quick game. So if you don't see things and you just say, and he shoots a floater, but he shot a 3-pointer, it's like, you're just messing with my head here. You got to say it right.
And now they're saying his foot was on the line.
Yeah. So,
That was one of the classic moments, by the way, because Marv Albert would famously say over the last 5 years, he would always be like, and Dennis Schroeder shoots the 2-pointer. And then he'd come back 30 seconds later and be like, well, now they're saying it was a 3-pointer or whatever. And then you'd shoot a 3-pointer and he'd say, he hits the 3.
when they say it wrong, and it's like they're 3 feet inside the line.
Yeah, and it was 3
makes
feet
me
inside
wanna
the line. So he would always do that.
Hubie does that so much. That's another one
geez.
that just ruins it for me.
He would be like, so Durant hits the 3. And then, but it was clearly
He's at the foul
inside
line.
the arc. And he would always be like, what the hell, Marv? Get a pair of glasses or something. And then he did it in the ultimate time.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant's foot was on the line. Game 7 of the NBA Eastern Conference Championship, or whatever that was, the divisional round, or whatever they call it, round 2. And Kevin Durant's foot was on the line. And he says, Kevin Durant hits the 3-pointer. And it was he's like, it was for the win. It would have been for the win. If he hit the 3, he's like, for the win. And I'm like, wait a minute. I think his foot was on the line. It's classic Marv, dude. It's unbelievable, that guy.
You know who's been doing that, which it's sad, is Mike Breen.
Oh, yeah?
I
hate Mike Breen.
He's got the moments,
Yeah.
but the little things are starting to slip.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was old.
He's not old. But it's just starting to happen.
It's just starting to slip.
It happens.
I didn't like Breen, honestly. I'm in the minority. I don't like him.
I mean, he's got the big time calls. That's it.
I know, but he just says bang every single
I know.
time. It's like,
It's
dude,
overdone.
Get some creativity in here.
Honestly, I mean, it's the homer in me, but I love the Celtics cast.
Oh, yeah, Scalabrine
With
and
Scal
Mike.
and
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, they're okay.
I just, whenever they're gone, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I agree with that. One thing I will say about Breen is that he has Van Gundy, who's the greatest color commentator in basketball.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
true.
Van Gundy. I love watching the games just because of him. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I'd put it on mute because I can't stand Breen. He just, every single time. From downtown, bang!
Well, the Celtics are up 21,
Every
so
time.
Celtics
are up 21?
Yeah, on the
cool.
Nets.
And this is, I mean, obviously they won the game. We're here
Oh,
on
yeah,
Saturday.
of course, right.
And happy Saturday.
So maybe if you want to do, Tony, I don't know how much you've been paying attention.
This much.
So I think I'll do a quick 5-minute rant because why not? So something that I've noticed this year with the NBA and something that I think is going to make the playoffs of the NBA even more intense is that there's legitimate teams throughout the top 8 or 9 or even 10 in the East in which any one of them could win a first round series, and I wouldn't be surprised. And that's something that's unique because in the history of the NBA, the East has always been weaker. And this year, there's teams up and down. You can talk about the Heat, which is leading the East right now. It's just an organizational thing. They're always there. The Bulls are upstart, good team. The Sixers now just revamped everything with the Harden trade, and they're still third place before he's even played a game. The Cavs have been a revelation in terms of their lineups and their rookies. The Bucks obviously won the championship last year. And that's just the top 5 seeds. If you go down the line, I think teams that are legit, obviously the Nets are sitting down there at 8. And when healthy, there's not a lot of teams that I think are better than them. The Celtics right now are playing really well. Even teams like the Hornets and Hawks were good last year or have young and up-and-coming talent that really makes it such that I wouldn't be surprised if any of these teams won and moved on. Obviously, I think if you're talking about real contenders, I think I'd narrow it to Heat, Sixers, and Bucks. Although I wouldn't be surprised by some of these other teams. They just got to prove something.
So, as someone who's barely watched, can you explain? I have a couple of quick hitters.
Sure.
What's wrong with the Hawks? Why have they fallen down so much?
From what I understand, the Hawks kind of got a little full of themselves. Last year they were a 4 seed. This year they're sitting at 10. So I think what happened is they got lost in their overachievement last year, and they kind of felt like we don't need to play every game as hard because we're that much better than everybody, when it's not the case. And
it's really the same roster, right?
It's pretty much the same roster. They got rid of a little bit of their talent, in fact, and they didn't really do much to add. So they just kind of ran it back, which is what you expect from a young team with up-and-coming guys. But there's limits when you have Trae Young, who's 6'1", and not really athletic, so he can't really play defense. So there's limits in terms of that. They just got a little full of themselves, and I think it was something that can be expected from a young team like that. So
if the Nets are fully healthy,
yeah, and Kyrie's going to be playing now.
Oh, that's so the vaccine mandate's gone, right? As of March 15th?
Yeah, it's lifting soon.
Okay,
so he's playing.
So Kyrie at 100% availability, Kevin Durant assuming he's back, and Ben Simmons assuming whatever's going on
next week,
is done. Yeah, okay, so there you go. The Nets can beat anybody?
I mean,
the Nets would be favored over anybody, or
I don't know about favored, but last year James Harden was maybe 40% by the time they were playing the Bucks, and Kyrie was out, and KD got them to inches. If he wore the right size shoe, they would have been in the finals. So that,
or if Marv Albert had glasses.
If Marv Albert had glasses or his eyes were correct, they would have been in the finals. So I think Kevin Durant right now is probably the best player in the league when he's healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you can make an argument for somebody else, but he's that good, and he elevates that team so much. And honestly, the Ben Simmons fit, I think it's not James Harden, but if those guys are healthy, Simmons does a lot of the things that they needed and that were holes with the team, even when everybody was healthy. It's the defense, it's the rebounding, it's the spreading the ball around, and just kind of being. And the trade also brought in guys like Seth Curry, who's a really underrated player, and he adds a lot to them shooting wise.
Yeah.
So I think that honestly, if they are healthy, I don't know if there's a team in the East that I would really feel confident in beating them in a series. Maybe the Bucks. That's it. And the Bucks aren't as good as they were last year, and they've got a couple injuries right now.
So what about the Heat? What's the deal with the Heat? They're the number 1 seed.
The Heat. Honestly, Eric Spoelstra wasn't just named one of the top 15 coaches of all time, and he deserves to be on that list. There's a reason that there's a culture in Miami that is built and they got guys that come off the street every year that come in and really contribute. Whether they're undrafted or second rounders or something like that. They know how to develop guys. They know how to get guys who work in the system. And it just really, they're going to be tough because they play tough. They didn't get less tough when they brought in guys like PJ Tucker. So they're going to be tough to get out of there, and they're going to be tough to beat. But something to note is you kind of need a top 5 guy to win in the NBA. Mm-hmm. They don't really have that guy. If you look back the last 50 years to go through the teams that won the championship, you can maybe say the Pistons in 2004 didn't have a top 5 guy, but every other team that's won the championship in the past 50 years have had a top 5 guy, a guy in the NBA. So that means that if you don't have one of those guys, you're probably not going to win, and you're not a real contender.
So speaking of top 5 guys,
I hate to do this. We have to wrap this up sooner
okay.
rather than later.
All right, this will be my last question.
All right.
Sure.
LeBron James and Anthony Davis are both top 8 guys, right? What the hell is going on? They are not even in the playoffs
so
right now. They would not be in the playoffs.
Here's the thing. LeBron James is having a really good season. He's sitting around. I was watching the All-Star game the other day, and they did a special thing. It's the 75th year. They were announcing top 75 players for the 75th year. And they were showing LeBron, AD, Russell Westbrook. So they've got 3 of the top 75 players of all time. And they're
Is
number
Russell
9.
Westbrook, I mean, is he
I don't
really...
think he really is.
Yeah,
but
no.
I've never liked Russell Westbrook, so that's a personal thing. I think there's a legitimate case that AD... There's a history of big men in the NBA that peak at 25, and from the rest is downhill. The injuries and the way that he's not come back from them is starting to scare me in a way that I think his value isn't as high. I don't know if I would call him a top 5 player. I don't know if I'd call him a top 8 player. I don't know if I'd call him top 15 player. If guys are going to move up, somebody's got to move down.
Yeah.
If John Morant's a top 5 player, suddenly AD isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the problem with the Lakers is LeBron's good, but he's still 37. You can't expect him to do everything. Russell Westbrook never was a good fit, at least in my opinion. And AD is just not healthy, and he can't. And even when he's healthy, he's not bubble AD.
The Russell Westbrook thing is not just your opinion. That is a fact.
I mean, it's a fact now, but 3 years ago, it was my opinion, and I was wrong. But
well, it takes time for opinions to be proven correct. I'm used to it, but it's all right.
He's just one of those guys that if you ever watch the game, you know he doesn't impact it in the way that that everybody says he does. Mm-hmm. And if you ever coach the game, you know for a fact you don't want him. I'd rather play almost anybody else on the roster than him, and he's getting paid $40 million, so that just makes it even more.
The funniest thing, that was my last thing, the funniest thing I saw was a clip of them losing by like 15, 20 in the fourth quarter. They were gonna lose, and Davis and LeBron are sitting on the bench like pouting basically, and Westbrook's like over there trying to cheer him up, like, "Come on, guys, it'll be all right."
Right.
Like, hey, this is your fault. This is your fault. LeBron's giving him this look like, you got to be kidding me.
Well,
anyway.
with I think that's our good. That's good NBA 10 minutes there. Next week we'll do NFL head coaches. We'll leave our viewers with this question: who's the worst head coach in the NFL?
And why is it Zach Taylor? Talk to you next week.
Yeah. So that and more coming up next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you very much.